So, and this might as well be on the video. So if you go take a look at our website, can I get everybody to do that really quickly? Just go to our Canvas site. And if you log into our Canvas site, I want to start with the syllabus on the top right-hand side. If you click on that, it'll open up for you, and this tells you what to do every single week. And this is for the whole semester. So you can see here on February 4th, which was 2 weeks ago, these were the assignments that were due. This was the assignment that was due last week. This is what's to do this week. If you click on any one of these things, like I just clicked on assignment 2.2, it spells out exactly what's going on here. It's just an easy way to find assignments. There's also, in this particular one, a video to help work you through that. The due dates, all of that kind of stuff is on here. So that's basically what this is about. That's one place that you can actually get to it. If we go back to the modules page, so the modules page is the week by week that happens actually in Canvas. So this again, click on the modules tab on the left-hand side, and down here, this is the week by week, blow by blow, and that very same assignment is right here. So this was assignment, thanks. Going around, yeah. So this was again assignment 2.1. This was 2.2 right here. If you click on it, it'll walk you through exactly what I'm asking you to do. So that's another place to find the assignments. If you click on the assignment tab, which is also on the far right, left-hand side, this is the third place that you can find all the assignments, and they're pretty much in order right here. You'll see due dates down here in the bottom. I don't like this version. This is the weakest one of the ways to get at the assignments, I think, because it's they're in order, but it's not as clean as the way it's divided up in the syllabus or in the modules page. And then finally, if you don't want to go through any of that shit, and you go to the folder that you guys downloaded at the very beginning. So again, all the student files, if we look inside student number 2, there is an assignment folder inside of every one of those. And inside this assignment folder, there's a PDF, and the PDF lists all the assignments, explains everything just like it does in those 3 other locations. So getting to your assignments is relatively pretty simple. So to that end, the assignment for 2.2, I'm going to go ahead and just double click this and open it up, just so that we have a PDF version of it right here. It says in here that you are going to create a custom DNG profile for each capture session in the assignment folder. This is the assignment folder right here. So it's these files that are sitting inside here. 5 or 6 of you did not use these files at all. 5 or 6 of you started using the castle. You started using other things in here. It plainly says in here that you are to work with the files in the assignment folder. It also says in here that the goal of this is that you are going to do 4 DNG files. I had people turning in CR2 files, PNG files, Photoshop files, TIFF files, JPEGs. I had people turning in DNG files too, but I'm just saying it was a little all over the place. And so I'm just pointing out the access to all of this. It is spelled out in 4 or 5 different places exactly what you need to do. And if you have any questions about that, or you don't understand that part, whatever, just reach out to me sooner rather than later, and I will get you through that part. But anyway, So I just wanted to throw that part out here as far as doing this whole first assignment. The next thing I want to talk about really quickly is, and it doesn't apply to this system 1 or 2 because, again, these files that you were turning in were supposed to be named a different way than every other assignment that you do in this class. So for every other assignment you do in this class, I'm going to go back to our website. I'm going to go back to the modules page. I'm going to go to the week that was the assignment that is actually due today, the Sunny assignment. So in the Sunny assignment, it's sitting right here again, assignment 3.1 in session number 3. Again, every assignment has a 2-digit number. The first number is the week. The second number is the assignment within the week. So 3.1 is the first assignment for week number 3. 3.2 is the second assignment for week number 3. If we click on 3.1, it's going to walk you through this whole thing. It's going to say, open this up, create a mask for each one of these, blah, 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 blah. So it should be pretty straightforward. In terms of how you name your assignments, if we go back again to the very top of the modules page, under course resources, let's do course overview instead. It's right here, big as life, what I'm asking you to actually do. This important note about submitting assignments in this class. Every assignment turned in for this class must be labeled as your last name _ first name _ assignment number, and then if there's multiple images, an image number. So if you're turning in 4 images, it would be this last number here would be 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't happen a lot after the assignments for week number 2. For the most part, everything you turn in now will only be a single one, I think, mostly. But at any rate, you can name the file that way, or you can put your stuff in a folder and name it that way. But if you put the stuff in a folder, you run the risks. I had a lot of people do this. They would name the folder using this naming convention, which was great, so I knew who it was. But then inside the folder, they would name the file Dodge and Burn. And if somehow that file gets out of that folder and isn't connected to it anymore, I have no idea. I can't. Half of you named the girl that you were supposed to develop using the shopping bag. Half of you named it Dodge and Burn. So attach your name to it is all I'm trying to say. That way there's no question about whose it is, and I can give you credit for it, and I'm not chasing you down trying to blah, blah. Anyway, so what also happens in this class is that along about the middle of the semester, people will start using their first name first and then their last name. You have to realize that I got a lot of people in this class, and I've got a lot of classes with a lot of people in it. All my grade books are alphabetical by your last name. So when you put in your first name, I've got to go in and rename all the files that you did that for so that when I grade it, it's actually in order, and I'm not trying to go back and forth. So please, if you don't want to use your first name at all, don't. And there's nobody in here who's got the same last name. There's no Smiths in here. So you don't have to use your first name, but definitely use your last name and start with it. Are we good on all this part? We good on this part? Okay, good. Okay, so we are actually going to do this assignment again in class. So the ones where you're actually going to make custom DNG profiles. I think this is a really critical skill, and I want to make sure that everybody understands it. So we probably will not do both sets, but we will certainly do one. Yeah, so my notes about this, again, I'm going to go through some specifics about how people did the second assignment that was due for last week, but not this first one. We're just going to do it together in class. So what I will say about this is my notes on here were more than half the people clearly did not read the assignment in here, because more than half the people turned in all sorts of weird shit. So if you got a 50 or a 38 or a 0, you know who you are. Not a good start. Guys, I'm not babysitting this class. We have way too much more to do in here. So I expect you to read this shit. I certainly will help you if you have questions, but I can't keep doing this for the rest of the semester. So anyway, I would like to call out 5 people here. I'm going to freak you out first because I'm going to name you first. So Ava, Karma, Avery, Aaron, and Sienna both killed that first 2.1 assignment. And I would just like to give a shout out to those. You aced you did it all right, perfect. It was amazing, good for you. And so that's where we're going to start. We're actually going to do this in class together. So I need everybody to go to their session number 2. I'm not going to do it in the assignments. I'm going to do it in my version. So inside the assignment folder, we're just going to do the very first one, the top one. So the capture folder that it's in is this 20100/702_CAR_FASHION_02. So what can you tell me about this capture session? Just curious. Anything?
Shot 2010, 7th month. Whatever the 7th month was.
July.
July 7th.
Yeah.
It was a fast shoot. I don't know what CAR was exactly.
CAR stands for Carson Perry Scott.
It's a fast shoot for Carson Perry Scott.
And can you tell which shot of the day it was?
The second.
Exactly. So the one underneath it, what can you tell me about it?
Same thing with the third shot.
Exactly, right? That's how simple it all is. The thing that matters here is that what happened is that I create a separate profile for every one of these lighting situations. These are 2 radically different lighting situations for these 2 files, for these 2 sets of images. So the idea was that you were going to create a custom profile for each one, and they're not interchangeable. So I had people flip these. I had people using the profile they built for 02, for 03, and the one they built for 03, for 02. The reason I name these things the way I name them is so that you don't make that mistake. Does that make sense, everyone? What's going on? Okay. So to start off with, I'm going to open up the capture folder. Now inside my capture folder, I've got 3 files. I've got 2 CR2 files and an XMP file. Did I start a recording here? Sorry, hang on. Just want to make sure. Yep. I have 3 files. This XMP file is just how the file was it's just how one of the files was developed. I'm going to get rid of this thing. So keep the 2 CR2 files. I'm going to get rid of the XMP file. I'm just going to delete it. Then I'm going to select the very first one. If you take a look at it, I'll show you what it looks like. It's the picture of the girl that has a color card in it. And then the next one is a picture of her without the color card. So the trick in all of this is that you want to use the one that has the color card to build all of the settings that you want to use, and then you apply those to the second one, and then you are good to go. So to start off with, I need to make the custom profile of this, the DNG profile of this. So I am going to go to my application folder, and I'm going to go down to my color checker camera calibration app. Now I keep getting confused about this. This is the name that it's used for Macintosh. For you people on Windows, it's close to this, but it's a little bit different. Or is it the same? Who's on Windows in here? What's it called? It's the same? Okay, then launch that guy. So this is going to come up, and the first thing it does, and it always does this, it says, okay, we don't think you've actually displayed your, calibrated your monitor recently. Are you sure about blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it actually does know that I have done my my laptop. It's not asking me, it's saying that I haven't done the projector up here, but I don't care about the projector up here. So I'm going to click OK to this. And then it just says drag and drop a DNG image here. Well, we don't have a DNG image yet. We're going to build one in just a second. So you can either drag and drop, or once we build this file, if you come up to the file menu, you could come down to add image, and this will let you navigate through to find the file to actually use. But in our case, we don't have one yet. So I'm going to go back to the capture folder that we were just in. And inside this capture folder, I'm going to double click on the CR2 or just drag it on top of my version of Photoshop. By the way, new bugs in the 2025 version of Photoshop. When I upgraded to the latest version of Capture Raw 17.2, it absolutely decimated how my dock works. So I would come down here to my dock and I would go to like click on Photoshop or anything like that, and it would pause for like a minute and a half, and then it would just start showing me all the names of all the icons in my dock. I thought this was my system. I have spent the entire weekend tearing my computer apart, and it turns out at the end of the day, the thing that I finally did was remove the new version of Camera Raw, and my computer went back to normal. Thank you very much, Adobe. May a pox be on your house. May all of your pets die. May children get sick. May you get old and ugly as fast as possible and then fucking die. They're just throwing shit out there that they don't care about. It's unbelievable. It's inexcusable. Anyway, so that's my rant for the day. Anyway, we need to make a quick DNG of this file. To do it, once you get into Camera Raw, which is where I am right now, you go up to the top right-hand corner of that. There's a little square with an arrow pointing in it. If you click on that, this is the fastest way to make a DNG of your file. If you don't change anything on this screen, you are good to go. All you need to do is hit save, and there's a little bar that'll run across the bottom telling you, so you can make 1,000 of these at one time. As long as they're all in Camera Raw here together. I'm going to hit cancel now. I'm not going to do any changes here. I'm not going to make anything in here. I'm just going to hit cancel. I'm going to reset my screen, and then I'm going to go back to my Finder, and you will see right next to that CR2 file that you used to create it is a DNG with the exact same name. That's a good thing. I am going to click once on that thing, and I need to copy the name. This is just the easiest way for me to do it. I don't want to try to remember that long number or type that shit out. I am a horrible typer. I'm dyslexic, so I have struggled with those numbers to begin with. So it's just, for me, copy and paste is the easiest thing to do it. In a Macintosh world, if you hit your return key or your enter key, it will select the name only without the extension. I don't know the shortcut for Windows, but drag across it with your mouse the way you always would do in order to copy something. I'm going to hit Command C on my Mac. That's how you actually make a copy. If you can't remember that, just go up to the Edit menu and come down to Copy. And that name is now on your clipboard. And so when we go to make the profile, we simply need to paste it in. So I'm ready to go on this. I'm going to click out of that, and then I need to drag and drop this DNG onto the screen in the Capture One software, not the Capture One software, the color calibration software. So I'm getting rid of all of my other windows. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to click on the DNG I just made, and I'm going to drag it onto my screen and let go. And then I can go back into the software. Again, it's loading the image right now. If that's too complicated or you got 1,000 things open and there's too many things to go through, simply go up to the File menu, down to Add Image, and you can navigate to that folder and launch it that way. So this does an okay job, but not a great job of finding my profile. So if you take a look here, you can see that the target is off. That little green thing is off. And I think the reason the targeting is off is probably because of the fingers that are actually covering part of the squares, of the color squares. That's okay, we can fix that part. To reset this to be correct, hover over the screen. You will, if you haven't done anything, the cursor that should be selected is the one on the very top on the right-hand side. Simply click on the little green dots and you can move this thing, and I'm just going to move it over. you want all those little green squares to be as close to the center of these color swatches as you can get them. You do not want them to actually touch the fingers or the shadows of the fingers, either one. But you certainly don't want to have them crossing any of the spaces in here. There was a couple of you who sent in profiles that were really bizarre, and I think that maybe that is what happened possibly here, is that when it tried to find the target, it didn't quite hit it correctly, like mine when I just opened it up, and you actually have to make this adjustment. So now you can see those little green squares, every single one of them is properly in there. You don't need to worry if the card is upside down, horizontal, vertical, whatever. The software is smart enough to understand that, but you need to have these little green squares in the center of every patch. Yes?
My mouse isn't clicking on the dots in the corner.
Okay. No. Okay. So now I've got this oriented correctly, and I'm just going to hit the button down at the bottom, Create Profile. So when I go through Create Profile, you'll see that it comes up, and it knows from the metadata that this was a Canon EOS 5D Mark II. However, that's not precise enough. I not only need to know that it's this camera, I don't really care that it's this camera. What I care about, it's the camera that I used for this particular shooting. And that's why I'm going to name this profile with the name of the shooting that I did, that whole, again, date with the CAR fashion 02, so that I know specifically that this profile is for this particular setup, this particular shooting, this lighting, this camera, everything else. So if you come up to your top and you would say to yourself right now, okay, I just need to paste the name in. You can see the name is already highlighted. So if you hit Command V, it actually, in this case, my case, it actually pastes that in. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. You don't have access to an edit menu, so you can't go up to an edit menu to actually do a paste. You need to do either the shortcuts or you can use a drop-down menu. So if you hover over this name and you hold, if you're on Windows or you have a double button mouse, you would do a right click to get a drop-down menu. In the case of Macintosh, the keyboard shortcut for that is Control click. So if you do a Control click, you will see you get a drop-down menu, and paste exists right here. In an older version of system, you couldn't just do Command V to paste this in. You would have to do it this way. So anyway, I'm going to paste this in. Now, in this case, it's actually put in my frame number as well. It's put in that frame 001. I don't need that frame number in here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. It's not frame specific, it's this shooting specific. So this is the name of my shooting. And so this, it says it's going to put it into my camera profiles. I'm going to merely hit save. It's going to run this through this whole process. And it says the profile has been successfully created. I'm going to say great. And then I'm going to quit this software. It's done everything it needs to do. I don't need it anymore. Now, this profile that we just created, this is where it has been placed. So again, if you want to find out where yours are in Windows or Mac, either one, there is in the assignment, it actually lists the folders that these are in. It's also in, if you go to our session 2 resources, there is a whole PDF about where Photoshop puts everything. You know, where the preferences are, where your custom workspaces are, where your custom brushes are, where your custom filters are, where your plugins are, where these profiles are, all of that shit. It tells you where, I mean, Photoshop puts shit everywhere on your computer. So I can't point to any one place to say where it is. But if you wanted to find that for Macintosh people, you would go up to your Go menu. Again, you cannot get to the user library just by clicking on the Go menu. You have to hold, and actually, Sage, if you do this, I'm going to grab this profile that I just made and give it to you so that you can do the rest of this work. So find this folder that I'm going to show you right now. So anyway, go to your Go menu. Depending on the version of software OS that you're working in Macintosh, it's either the Shift key, which is not on mine. So if I click on the Shift key, it says it changes one of the menu items up at the top. But if you hold down the Option key, it shows up. And here's the library. So if you click on the library, it will actually show up. If you don't want to have to remember that keyboard shortcut and you hover over the word library at the very top, you'll see it, but a little icon shows up as a file. A folder. If you click that folder and drag it over to your favorites and let go, it will put your library here forevermore. And all you need to do then is click on this. Now, I'm going to do this from memory, so bear with me here. If you are then, once you are in the user library, which is where you need to be. So again, if you want to go into Windows and find out where this all is, I'm going to go back to our overview really quickly. And I'm going to go down to the resources for System 2. And I think this is where it is. No, let's go back to System 1. The resources for Session 1, sorry. So in Session 1 resources, again, this will all be under support. Connect. Photoshop preference locations. If you click on this, this is what I was telling you. This is where that shit is, and it's put all over the place. So what you would be looking for as we come down here is camera profiles. Search here. That's lens profiles. And it's not showing me where it is. Of course it isn't. If we go, hopefully, to the assignment, yeah, I pulled this out of the assignment. I'm going to just do a quick search. And this is where they would actually be. So in the Macintosh, it is in the user library, which is right where we got under application support, Adobe, Camera Raw, and then into Camera Raw profiles. So back out here in my library under applications, and the Windows version was right underneath that, where that is, where they are in Windows. Application support under Adobe, under Camera Raw, under camera profiles, and the latest one that I just made is this guy right here. So really quickly, Sage, did you find your way to that folder?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Hang on one second. It is on this hard drive. Just copy that into that and you'll be able to do the whole rest of this. Okay. So back to Photoshop now. You can jump if you've gone in to do all this, whatever. You don't need to stay in there. But back into Photoshop. Actually, back into your Finder. We are going to launch that CR2 file. So again, this was a mistake that a lot of people made. So I'm just going to go back in here. So inside of here, we've still got the original 2 CR2 files, but we have the DNG file right here. And the problem with this is that when we made this DNG, we did not have that custom profile. So if I launch this thing, I'm gonna double click and open it up. This is the DNG. I could now navigate and find that profile, the one that we just made, which is what we're gonna do right now. So I'm gonna click on my drop-down menu. I'm going to come down to either the browse or click on the little 4 square icon to the right of the word that says profile. Click on that and then open up at the very, not at the very bottom, but you'll see there's some thumbnails for different profiles here, but underneath it there is a drop down, there's a thing called profile with a little open up arrow, triangle next to it. Open that up, and inside that is where all your custom profiles are. And this is where I can actually hover over and click the one that I just made. And I don't have a version number on this one anymore, so it's this one right here. So I can click on this, and then in the very top underneath your histogram, it says there's a back arrow. So if you click on the back arrow, so this is now loaded that profile into this DNG. And then I could actually say done here, and it's just closed up. I didn't open anything. But now if I go back in and I open that DNG again, you'll see that it's still sitting here. However, when I take this profile, when I take this DNG, well, here, I'll show you really quickly. I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm going to kill that profile that I just made. So it's sitting in my system, in that folder inside of my library. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go into my library, into my application support, into Adobe, into Camera Raw, into Camera Profiles, and I am going to pitch that profile. Hang on one second. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to throw it away, but I'm not going to empty my trash because I want to get it back out again. So it's no longer in my system now. It's, again, this is all application support. This is all in your system. It's not there anymore. So now when I go back to that DNG file that I just opened and launch it again, you get this warning. It says the profile is missing. It's not there. That's what this big triangle is about, because I took it out of my system. It's the same thing when you guys did exactly this, saved the DNG and then sent it to me. The profiles that you made are now in my system, so I get this warning for every single one of them. And it means the profile is not being used. It's not there. So this is just as bad as having no profile. Does that make sense, everybody, what's going on? So instead, I'm going to cancel out of this. I'm going to go through this whole thing again. I'm going to go into my trash, and I'm going to grab that profile. I should have emptied my trash first. It's this guy right here. And I'm going to put it back into the camera profile. So now I'm taking it out of the trash and putting it back onto my computer. And now when I open that DNG file again, You will actually see there is no problem because I put it back in my system. But this is not how we want to work, because you want to have all of this stuff embedded into your file. So if you save this, if you create an image based on this and you save it, and then you want to re-edit it 10 years from now, are you going to be able to come back and find this computer that had those profiles on it and copy all of that shit over? There's no way. So you need to embed these profiles into a brand new DNG so that this problem goes away. Does that make sense? So to do that, I'm going to hit cancel out of here. I am going to go back to my screen. I am going to throw away the original DNG, this one. I'm going to get rid of this guy. So just again, Command Delete to get rid of it. I'm going to then launch the CR2, original CR2, again in Camera Raw. I'm just going to, but now I'm going to, before I build a new DNG, I'm actually going to embed it into this first. So again, I'm going to click on, so has everybody got this new CR2, the CR2 open again? Not the DNG, CR2. Look up at the very top. You'll see it right here. Yes? No?
Not yet.
It's in session 2 in the assignment folder. In the very top of the 2 capture folders. The O2 one.
Okay.
Okay. So again, click on the browser, the little 4 square that's to the right. Let me show you what I was clicking on. 4 square to the right. Go down to profiles, open it up, and you can find the O2 profile again. This is now embedded. Now that this is here, I'm now going to create a new DNG, and that new DNG will have this thing embedded into it. So again, click on the little square at the very top right-hand corner. You'll get the little drop down, just hit save. Then you can hit cancel. We don't need to use that anymore. If you go back out to your folder, you will see that there is a new DNG profile here. If you double click on it, it'll open up into Camera Raw and you can see the correct profile is here. I'm going to cancel out of that again. And now this time I'm going to go back and I'm going to throw away the custom profile that I had right here again. So this is the system copy of it. I'm going to throw it away. So remember, now that it's been thrown away, the first go around when I opened up the DNG, I got that warning saying it's missing, it's not here. But now this new DNG I have built has it embedded in it. So if you come back to it and double click on it again, you'll actually see, even though I've thrown the system version of it away, this profile is now embedded into this image. And I'm good to go. Did that make sense to everyone? Okay. So then to make this all work, I'm going to actually put that profile back in the, that's in my trash. I'm going to actually take it back out again. It's just easier for me to work this way. Sorry, not that one, this one. Okay, so I'm going to throw away this DNG that I've just created because it's with the color card in it, and that one doesn't do me any good. So I'm going to throw this away and just start from scratch. So everybody has a copy of the profile in their camera profiles folder, correct? Okay, select both of your files. So I'm selecting both of the CR2 files. I'm going to launch both of those into Photoshop at the same time. So one of them is got a color card in it and the other one does not. I need to use the one with the color card to set everything up for me the way I want it, and then I'm going to apply that to the one that doesn't have the color card so that it inherits everything. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to do, again, you should have the version of the image that has the color card in it selected. Hover over the little 4 squares that are by the camera profile, click on the drop down. It's the same thing we've already done 3 times now. Open up the profile folder and click on the O2 one that we just actually added to this. You'll have yours. I don't appear to have mine.
I don't know.
Did you throw your DNG profile away?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I thought we were supposed
No.
to. Okay.
I kept saying, don't do this. Just follow me. Watch me. Well, it's sitting in here. Oh, I actually possibly moved it to the wrong place. We'll see. Try it again. All right, if it doesn't show up, I'm going to do a quick restart.
I think you brought up the DNG.
Instead of the profile. Let's see.
Oh, yes, right there. Underneath the XMP.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Open these up again. They're both showing up again. The one that's got the card, the one without the card. You want to do all your work on the one that does have the card in here. I'm going to click on the 4 square to get a new to get the custom profile I built. I'm opening up the little drop-down menu, and here's the one that I just built right here. And I'm going to go click on it to activate it, and then hit the back arrow. It's now been loaded in here, but that is only my first move. If you come down and open up your color temperature panel, mine, it's in a basic panel. Yours, actually, depending on the version of Camera Raw you're using right now, it's separated color. So again, I had to go back and I downgraded my Camera Raw because the new Camera Raw was fucking all of my stuff up. So your basic panel is going to be slightly different than mine if you're working on this newest one. So again, underneath, the profile will be in the same spot, but instead of color being under basic, there's actually, I think you now have a color panel. Just click that open so that you can get to the white balance tool, and you will see by default this has as shot listed in it. Well, that's not a custom color profile. This is the first thing that I looked at for all of you. Did they have the right profile in here, and was this as shot? If it was as shot, that means you didn't do a custom profile. So click on the little white balance tool, the eyedropper, come over, and you want to click on the gray patch that's right underneath the red. We've had this conversation before, but I'll have it again. The reason you pick that is that the colors that are on the bottom, that whole row on the bottom, are neutral colors. And that is what white balancing is all about. What it means is that when you click on, no matter what you click on, it's going to try to give you equal values of red, green, and blue. By definition, that is color balance. And because those things are truly neutral colors, that's how the company makes them, that when you then use them and click on them, then you get neutral white balance on this. So you're going to click on that little, the reason I don't do the whites or the blacks is that you want to avoid trying to do color correction at the extremes. The curves that they put on to do this color balancing don't have any room to move if you're doing the whites or the blacks. So that's why we do this pretty much in the middle. I'm going to click on that, and you will notice that that white balance is now changed to custom. So now I've done 2 things to this image. I have actually created this image, I've assigned its profile, and I've done the white balance for this. So now I don't care about it for this image because I could do that again over and over and over. What I want to do is I want to apply all of this to the other image. So to do that, hover over your thumbnail. If your thumbnails are along the bottom, it doesn't matter. It all works the same way. Hover over the thumbnail, and if you hover over, again, I'm doing the image that I've just color corrected, the thumbnail. If you hover over the top right-hand corner, you'll get 3 little dots. If you click on those, you'll get a drop-down menu, and your first move is to do a select all. And what that does, you'll see, is it puts a slightly darker, thinner border around the image that does not have the card in it. That indicates that it is selected, but the primary that I'm looking at has still got the heavier white line around it. Then you're going to go right back up to that same little 3 dots and click on it again. And at this stage of the game, you are going to come down to sync settings. And what I'm saying now is I want to, and you can see it right here, it's going to assign the profile to this. If you open up your basic panel, you can see it's also going to do my white balance adjustment. So I'm just going to say, okay. And so now if we hover over this, you can actually see. You can click on this image right now and you will see, this is now the one that doesn't have the color card in it. You'll notice that it does have the color profile that we wanted in here, and it's also got a custom white balance. And interesting now, and I'm thinking this will hold true here, this I've never noticed this feature before, where it's brand new. There's also that same little square with the arrow that points down on this image. It's the same as the one that's in the top right part. I'm going to click on that because my guess is that's going to allow me to create a DNG of this file, which is what I want to do. I want to create a brand new original raw file of this that has that DNG embedded in it and is white balanced, which this one is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. It will download it. Then I'm going to hit cancel. It's done the work that it needs to do. So I'm going to come back over to my Finder, and you can see this is where the DNG is that we have just made. And to make sure, this is where I'm going to start. This would be now the base of my work. So I'm going to come back up to my Camera Raw profiles, and again, I'm going to throw away that DNG profile just to show you guys that yes, indeed, it has been embedded in this, and I could send this to anyone, and the profile will go with it. So I'm going to double click on it now, and it'll come into Camera Raw, and you will see the profile is embedded right here, as is the custom white balance. And now we can start doing whatever we wanted. I would now then open this file in Photoshop as a smart object. It is a smart object right now. So I'm going to then save this as just a regular Photoshop file. So I'm going to come up and do save as. And I'm going to throw this in my toss folder. You guys don't need to do this part. No, we're almost done with this. I'm going to save it as a PSD, a Photoshop file. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to get rid of this now. Then I'm going to go find it in my toss folder. Double click on it. And now double click on the smart object to go back into Camera Raw, and you can see I not only have my raw data, I've actually got the custom profile created for it, as well as the custom white balance applied to it. This is how I work on my images. Guys, it takes this level. Stop thinking that you can just put this into Lightroom and hit the auto button and life will be great and somebody will pay you thousands of dollars to be a great photographer or a great retoucher. No, it takes this level. Sorry. Are there questions about this? Once you get used to this, it's just second nature. Do you know how fast I can do these things? I can bang out a custom profile, embed it, and create a new DNG in under 5 minutes. And if I'm doing it for a whole series of images, whatever, I can bang those out. Again, if I've got, let's say, 20 images from this shoot, I just do exactly what I just did. I go in and I apply it to the first one. I sync it to all of them. I then create a DNG of all of them, and I'm good. Yes?
How many images can you open at the same time in Camera Raw?
Thousands.
I tried doing it and it only let me do like 3 at a time. Because I was trying to do it for a first shoot I had.
The only thing that would be limiting it would be the memory.
Oh,
So if you've got a bunch of other applications that are open, or you don't have a lot of memory or whatever, there is no limit in terms of the number you can open in there. But memory, obviously, if you don't have enough memory to hold it, it can't open then anymore. So try it again sometime when you don't have anything else open. Okay. Are we good on this part? Questions about this? All right. Yes.
You can't do that in Lightroom, and you can have like custom DNG profiles open there.
The thing is that you can assign the profiles in Lightroom, and the thing about the advantage in Lightroom on some level is that you're not recreating another raw file. That's what we're doing here. We're actually recreating another raw file. So you might be able to do an export to a DNG out of Lightroom. Do you know if you can do that?
I don't.
That would be the only way to do it. Because again, if you throw the profiles away or you're on a computer, you hand it to somebody else, the profile gets orphaned unless it's a part. But again, the whole trick to this is that you can't redo another. Once you build the original DNG that we built to create the profile, it's fixed. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't change that. What I need to do is start the process all over to create a brand new DNG with the profile that I created from the first one. Make sense? Guys, I know that this is confusing as hell, but nothing I can do about that. It's important. And again, what I would say to you is when you start doing this kind of level of work, your value as a retoucher, or your value just to yourself as a photographer, is amplified 100-fold. Because this is now corrected. This doesn't have a sensor bias. This has perfectly neutral color. That doesn't mean that I'm going to accept this color. I may like my film, I might my stuff warmer. But what you'll find is that when you get into actually doing compositing work and you start mixing images from different cameras, from different setups, from all that kind of stuff, whatever, this lack of this is a nightmare. So imagine taking an image that's really cool and adding it to an image that's really warm and then trying to fit them together. You are much better off neutralizing both of them to perfectly neutral color, putting them together, they will then fit, and then making the entire composite cooler, warmer, more saturated, less saturated, lighter, darker, all of that. But it's only after you build the comp. You should be doing all neutral stuff going into it. All right. You can close out of this. You don't need that anymore. So I want to show you a couple, and then we're actually going to do the other version of this. So there's nothing for you guys to do here except for watch this part. So when I do this, and I do this every week, I'm just going to say that the people whose names begin with A, or the people who come early in the alphabet, seem to feel picked on because what happens is as I'm doing the homework, I'm making notes about it. And so I'm going to show examples of your files that you turned in. And the people whose name begins with, your last name begins with Z, they will never get called on. I will tell you that right now, because I've found too many examples of the issues before I ever get that far. The people whose name begins with A, so I'm going to apologize to the both of you right now, or anyway, but it's not last name. But at any rate, tend to feel picked on. I am not picking on anyone. I don't want to make anybody feel bad about this. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. There's a cornucopia of issues that exist with this. My only hope is that I can show you some of these things to help you avoid them, to point out some of the things. Anything that I show on any one file, at least 3 or 4 people in this class have done. And I could just as easily pick theirs. So anyway, don't get flipped out if I pick one of your files and say, okay, here, take a look at that. It's got nothing to do with that. We are all here. This is a safe community, blah, 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 blah. Are we good on this? All right. So this is the first one I'm actually going to look at. Again, don't say that's what I was just trying to avoid. No, not me. So if we take a look at this image right here, it starts out and it looks like it has all the features that I was hoping for. So I'm going to double click on the base to actually go in and take a look at it. And then it's saying now that this was done with a newer version. Yeah, I don't care about that. But you can see that the profile that I'm looking for here is not here. There's a camera standard in here. It has been custom white balanced. So my guess is that you actually white balanced it probably on the bag or the wall or the something, whatever. It has been color balanced. So that part was okay. I'm going to cancel out of this and then go to the next layer. And on the next layer, if I click on this one, you can see that indeed there was a custom profile that was made for it, but it has been orphaned. This is what I got on at least half of your alls because again, you did not recreate the D&G process that we just spent an hour going through. Makes sense? But it also has been custom white balance. So anyway, those are the issues that existed here. But a couple other things that I'm going to talk about here really quick. You should take out a notepad and write this down. The values that we're going to talk about right here. I'm going to show you what we're going to get into some of them here really quickly. The first one is shadow detail. We already looked at this on the board back there, did we not? Remember the... Remember this thing, right? And we all decided, oh, shadow detail happens around, I don't know, 25 to 30, somewhere in there. So 25, 26, 27, that's where shadow detail is, right? So I'm going to look at this image and say, well, where do I expect shadow detail to be? Now, in the deepest folds underneath this armpit right down in here, I do not expect to see shadow detail in here, but I certainly expect to see it up in this area right in here. That's actually full frontal part. What are my readings here? Looking at my info palette for this color black. 19, 17, 16. Is this shadow detail? No. This is blocked up. It is too dark. It needs to be lifted. It needs to be in those mid-20s to the low, 25, 26, 20. It needs to be in that range. It is not in that range. It is too dark. The other number that I'm going to give you right now, and this is a number that you can use when you're actually tethering, when you're capturing. It's a quick check for people. You guys already know that when I'm using a color card, I'm trying to white balance first, and then I try to get the white patch on the color card from 245 to 250. We all know this, correct? Who is that news to? A check for that is with Caucasian skin only, and I'm not prejudiced about this, it's just that African American skin has too much variation in tone, Asian skin has too much variation in color. So the trick that I'm looking for here, the number that I'm looking for here, the number for you to write down, in a properly exposed file, you're looking for a highlight on Caucasian skin, a red channel value only of 225 to 245. That's the range you're looking for. My standard in the red channel is a 235. You can go as low as 225. You can't really go past 245 or you start, again, you're blowing out detail. You're running into that problem. So if I zoom in to this face, I'm looking again for a highlight. I'm going to go on the bridge of the nose right here, and you can see on the bridge of that nose, I'm reading a 196, a 150. Again, I only care about the red channel. That red channel is too dark. It needs to be between 225 and 245. This is way underexposed. This whole image is underexposed. The shadows are blocked up and the highlights are in the midtones, not in the highlights. And I do that just looking at numbers. How many of you struggle just to make shit look good on your screen that you haven't calibrated? You want to know how I do this shit? This is how I do it. You want to know why I don't do test strips? I'm fucking spot on every time in my work because I know what I'm trying to get. And I'm trying to give you guys that workflow. Tragically, you have reached this point in your careers here at Columbia and nobody has told you this shit, and it is criminal. Can you tell I'm a little frustrated with the college right now? Just a little bit.
We all are.
Yeah, I know, right? So at any rate, but that being said, you did exactly what I was hoping to do. This is repeated smart objects to do dodging and burning. The other thing that I will say, though, that's a little odd about this is that if you turn off the base layer, you'll see that other than the small little highlight line that goes around it, the base layer is not doing anything because these two masks here are the exact inverse of one another. So there's really no point for the base layer other than, again, filling in just these small little lines that are in here, but nonetheless. I'm going to close this up. I'm going to go to ties really quickly. And, you know, not bad. I think the color's a little bit weird or off or that kind of stuff, whatever. I'm not sure about any of that stuff. But anyway, I'm going to double click on the model part to open it up. And the first thing that I see right here is you see this little triangle right down here with a warning sign on it. That tells me that this has actually been done in an older version of Capture One. I'm not sure, Capture One, Camera Raw. And so if I go down and look at the calibration part, I see that this was done in version 2, which is exactly what we were using for the castle. And so then I start to look at this and go, wow, I think these are the castle values that have actually been put in here. So I'm going to go back up and look at the basic part in here. And some of them are, some of them aren't. If I look at the color in here, the color seems to be like that. But anyway, hold that thought. I'm going to open up another one here really quickly. I know you're all feeling like this is the Cooper's really quick. And Cooper, you were not the only person to do this, just so that you know. So I'm opening this up. It's the same issue right here, but then I take a look at this and it did have the custom profile. It's not embedded, it's missing. But when I look at these values right here, all of these are based, they're the exact values that we use to process the castle. So the thing about those is that they fit for the castle, but they have no business being in this. They don't relate. All of the settings that we use are unique to every image that we do them on. So it didn't make any sense to process these this way. And anyway, that's why this image looks like this image looks like, is because he's trying to use values that were for a completely other photograph in here. Also with this highlight warning down here telling me it's done in version 2. So I just want to point that out, not the way to move in there. Couple more to show you really quickly. I'm going to show you Sarah's. So in Sarah's, when I take a look at this, again, I'm going to zoom in here to the top. And I'm hovering in this area right in here, and you can see the area that I expect to be in shadow detail is reading in 25, 22, 23. This is right where I want shadow detail to be. Based on this. Guys, this isn't some fucking magic number. We've gone through this. We all decided this was the numbers to be at. So these are the numbers to use. Now, if you were using a completely different paper, if you were using like a really, I don't know, a matte stock, those numbers might actually be higher than this. They may be in the 30s. I'm not inventing this shit. Unlike most of the people who work with you guys, I'm not going to just say fucking do it at 25, and that's where I'm telling you. That's Verser's Law. You looked at this. All of us agreed on this, right? Well, most of us agreed. There's always the rebels. Then I'm going to zoom in on the highlight on her face. Right here, and I'm reading this, 215. I feel like that's in the red channel. I feel like it's a little dark. So anyway, that's what's going on in all of this. We're actually going to develop this file ourselves. We are going to do this again. So I'm going to show you two other people. Anyway, Sarah, really well done. You're not the only one. Carmen, again, incredibly well done. Aaron, extremely well done. We're going to do this image in class together. So I am not going to go through the process of creating a custom profile. We all know how to do that. We've got too much else to get to today, but I want to go through the whole reprocessing part. Is everybody good on that? All right, so short of doing the custom profile, we're not going to do that. You guys, if you still have your custom profile and you want to use it, go right ahead. Okay. So I'm going to go back into our, again, these files are in the assignment folder for our week number 2. And instead of it being the 02 version, it's the 03 version. There are 2 CR2 files in there, if you can click on both of those. So again, in the assignment folder, in the 201072 car fashion 03, whatever, it's in that, it's the fashion 03. Go into the capture folder. There's only 2 CR2 files in there. Click on them both, open them both. They will open up in Photoshop together. So at this stage of the game, what I will say this is the first camera profile that I built of this is actually better than using the canned profiles that Adobe Photoshop has. So if I click on this and I go to the browser part, I think I've thrown away that profile yet again. Yeah, so mine doesn't exist. So I'm not going to add a custom profile to this. But I am going to white balance it. So I'm going to click on the, I'm going to open up, in my case it's the basic panel, in your case it'll be the color panel. I'm going to click on the targeting white balance tool, the little eyedropper. I'm going to hold down the shift key and the command key to temporarily get the magnifying glass and zoom in. And then whenever I do that, I always have to select, I have to deselect and reselect the white balance tool because it stays, it does, the magnifying glass doesn't go away. I'm going to click on this to actually do a custom white balance. So now this image has been white balanced. I'm going to come up to the very top. I'm going to click on the little 3 dots. I'm going to do a select all and then go right back to the same spot and click on the little 3 dots and come down and do sync settings. So I'm going to say okay to that. And then finally, I'm going to come over to my new image. So this has now been white balanced. It does not have a custom profile, but I already told you we're doing that to just save time. But this thing has been white balanced. I am now going to create a DNG of this. I do not want to launch onto this. If I just take this now into Photoshop, I don't have an embedded version of that camera profile. So I'm going to click on the little square, again, under the on the top of the thumbnail, top right-hand side, the little square with the arrow pointing down. I'm going to click on that and save this as a new DNG. The little bar went across. Then I'm going to cancel out of this, and then I'm going to go into that folder and find the DNG. This is now where I start. This is the base of the photograph that I am then going to dodge and burn and turn into my master file and keep forevermore. Does that make sense, everyone? All right, so double click on the DNG. I need everybody to do this with me. It's going to come in, and you guys should know this about me. I do perfect exposure every time, so this thing has been perfectly exposed. I'm just going to throw that out there and say it. Doesn't mean it's been perfectly processed, but it has been perfectly exposed. I'm going to come up to that same area by her armpit, this area in here, and I'm just looking to see what the values are in this area. Do I have good shadow detail in there? And if you take a look at my screen right over here at the histogram, you can see I've got a 28, 27, 27. Isn't that exactly what we all looked at for this? Yes, it is. So my shadow is fine in this. Now, that doesn't mean everything else is fine in this, but my shadow certainly is fine in this. So if you want to make sure any changes that we make don't change that, you can actually put a targeting point on this, a sticky readout of the color of the RGB values in here. To do that, it's on the far right-hand side of your camera raw. Down near the bottom, there is an eyedropper with another little symbol next to it. Click on that. It is the color sampler tool, and come over onto your image near her armpit and click, and it will drop down a set of numbers, and you'll get a readout right above this screen that says 28, 27, 27. That's exactly what I'm looking for here. Now, if I come over and take my exposure and whack my exposure out, you'll see those numbers change. So this is just a way for me to sort of tell what's going on in here. So I'm going to double click on that to kick that back out. So now I need to go after the highlight that I was talking about on her face. So I'm going to zoom into that highlight on her face again. I'm going to grab another targeting point, and I'm going to drop that onto her, the highlight right on her nose. If it'll let me do that. Oh, there's a new sampler point up at the color sampler part. So I'm going to click on that and come down here and drop it on the highlight of her face. And you can see right now this is giving me an R value of 219. This is close, but it is not quite there. So then I'm going to take my highlight slider, and it's either going to be in the whites or the highlights, but I'm going to do the highlights, and I'm going to push them up. And you'll see I'm starting to get to a 220, a 221, a 220. I don't like what's happening here. I don't like this exposure part. I don't think this is doing what I want it to do. So I'm going to double click on that to cancel that back out. I'm going to just go after the exposure slider, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to start to push this up. And you can see by the time I get to 225, that's actually lifted my shadows up to 230. So this is telling me I can't get this all in one go. So I'm not going to try to do that. I'm going to double click on that exposure. I'm just going to open this the way it was shot. This is going to be my base. So I'm just going to click on open object. If you see open down at the bottom, not open object, that means you do not have your settings in Camera Raw correct. Does everybody have open object back down here? Anybody not? All right, click on an open object. So this is the beginning of it all. My next version here is I want to lift the skin tones here. I want to open that face up a little bit. The body, the black suit thing is done. That's fine. That's exactly where it should actually be. I know because I've marked that shadow detail part on that. But I want to lift the skin tone a little bit more than it actually is right now. So to do that, again, you cannot just make a copy of this using Command J. I'm making a copy of my Smart Object. Come up to the Layer menu. Come down to Smart Objects and do New Smart Object via Copy. Double click on that to go back into Camera Raw. And again, I'm going to zip into here. And the value that I really want to use for this is more a standard that I use. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to come in and drop a point right on that highlight. I'm looking at the R value. It's reading a 217. I'm just going to do this with the exposure slider. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to whack it up until I get a 235. So in a 235, that's where I like to keep my skin tones. And so I'm going to just say OK to this. And so it blows the whole image out. That part's fine here. I don't mind that part here. So really quickly, I'm going to make a selection of just her skin. So I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm going to grab the quick selection tool. Make it smaller to fit inside her head. Hang on. Quick selection tool. I'm just using the bracket keys to make things a little bit smaller. I'm just going to click to bring this in to grab her face. It's grabbed her hair. I don't want her hair to be any lighter than it already is. So I'm going to hold down the Option key to just refine this tool a little bit. We're not going to spend hours doing this, guys. So I'm doing this a little bit more quick down and dirty. But that seems pretty good to me. A little bit on the top of her head is also needs to be gotten rid of. So I've got an active selection going now that's basically just her skin. I'm going to come over to, I'm working on this top layer, the lighter one. I'm going to click on now Add Layer Mask. So it is the icon at the bottom of your layers palette. That's the black, that's the square, the light square with the circle, the dark circle in the middle of it. That is what you click on to add a layer mask. I'm going to click on that, and you can see that it's actually added this layer mask on here. here. Mine's really rough on this. You can see I've got really strange edges on this. You could go in here and simply blur this layer mask, or you can simply come up to your properties panel and grab the feather slider and simply start to drag it towards the middle. That will soften up those edges, and once we get to a certain point, those hard lines are actually gone. So this is now what I've added for just her face. And I like this part. I'm keeping the original for her hair. I don't mind sometimes if hair burns out. I don't mind if there are highlights that are actually blown out. So that's okay with me. I'm going to double click on the hand to kick back out. I'm going to do one last thing here. And this is the problem a lot of you guys have had, or a lot of you are actually doing in this stuff right here. Everybody's temptation when they process this was to bring the building down, was to take this area over here and make it darker, and then make also the whole rest of this image darker as well. I don't necessarily think that was a good move. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come up to my select menu. I'm going to come down to select subject to see how well Photoshop can do this. And it does a fair job of it. Again, we have spent an inordinate amount of time on selections. We will continue to do this, but I'm pretty happy with where this selection is. So I'm going to come up to the select menu. I'm going to come down to save selection, and I'm just going to call it body and say OK. Command D to deselect. I'm going to make one more smart object in this. And so again, I'm going to go back in. I need one more layer to control the background. So I'm going to just select my top layer, come up to the image menu, down to, the layer menu, down to smart objects, new smart object via copy. It's also got that face mask on it. I don't want that on there. So I'm going to click on the mask and I'm going to simply throw it away. Because again, this is now going to be about the background. So then I have got a body selection. If you come over to your channels palette and look at the bottom, that's where your selection got saved. Hover over it. Do not select the channel. Simply hover over the body, hold down your command key and click to load it as a selection. Then come back onto your image, the very top layer that's going to be just for my background, and hit add layer mask. And then you can see that, because again, I use large thumbnails in all of my palettes here, I can see, oh, well, any change that I make to this is going to impact the body. I want this to impact the background. But the body is white, the background is black. How do I change that? There's a million ways. If you look at the properties panel, you could just click on invert. You could hit Command I to invert it. Now, when I click invert, the background is actually white in my mask. The body is dark, so whatever I do will impact the background, not the body. Make sense? So then I'm going to double click on this smart object to go back into it, and I'm going to actually pop this up considerably. I'm going to take this up to, I'm going to hit it up like a stop, and I'm going to go to 2 stops. I'm really going to smack this hard. I'm going to say OK to that. So this is now my image that I'm blowing out. Is this figure not incredibly well isolated? Doesn't she pop up off the background? All the above. Yes, she does. This is what everybody else did. I'm going to double click on this to go back into it. Everybody else did the opposite. Everybody else drugged this thing down to start making it really dark and said OK to that. Doesn't she completely blend into that background now? She doesn't pop at all. So guys, you've got this extraordinary power, but you need to think about what the fuck you're doing with it. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. I'm going to keep this really blown out background. And you say to me, well, Verser, yeah, but come on, the background's so blown. Is this a picture about the fucking building? No. Is this making sense? If you feel like this is too strong, and you might, you could always go back in and reprocess it, or simply take your opacity slider and drop it down. Okay, that's how I'm going to do it. Questions? Okay, I'm going to call this 225, make it a hard 10, guys. Be back at 235, and we will actually jump into the pen tool. What happens in this class is, I always think of it as like it's circular. It's, I wish you knew this, but we haven't gotten to that yet. So, but once we get to that, then you'll realize that that applied to something that we did before, right? So I couldn't show you how to actually select that cheek because we haven't reached the point that we're at now. But now I'm going to show you what we're going to deal with today is actually how to do that part. Can you tell it's been this, like, it's been a week. I'll leave it at that. And I don't see any change in coming up anytime soon. Okay. Next file that we are going to go after. We are into week 3 now, so if you can find your session 3 folder. Inside that session 3 folder, there is, oh wait, I take that back. We're in session 4. Can you believe this is the 4th week? Does things seem like they're going fast or slow for you guys? Wait, I've got slow, I've got fast. But no, that pretty much describes it. It's just a chaos for like everyone. It's either too slow or too fast or just, yeah. And now it's 12 below. Yeah, got that going for us. All right, session 4, inside your student folder. Again, like all the other folders, there's an assignment folder in here. This is where all of your files that you're going to actually use for the assignment are. That we're not going to work on those right now. The thing that I'm actually asking you to find is in that session 4, at the very bottom of mine, is a viacom_path.tiff. If you can open that into Photoshop, that's where we're going to head next. If you get this warning that comes up and it says, hey, this document does not have an embedded RGB profile, what do you want to do? You can just say, leave it as it is, don't color manage it. It's actually a black and white image, so it doesn't matter. And when you get it opened up, I'm going to double click on the hand to get it as big as I can get it. You should see it's an outline of Viacom. Does everybody have this guy? Anybody not? Okay. Right off the bat, do you guys have 2 little cyanic lines that are sitting on the top and the bottom of this? Does everybody have those lines? Okay, they're just guidelines. That's all they are. I want to hide them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to get rid of them, but I don't want to see them. So if you hold down your Command key or Control if you're on Windows and hit the H key, it stands for hide. You'll see in my case, they just disappeared. Now in your case, depending on if this is the very first time you have done it, a dialog box will pop open and it'll say, do you want to hide extras or do you want to hide Photoshop? You always want to pick extras. The reason is that hiding Photoshop, all you have to do is go up to the menu and come down and say hide Photoshop. That's an easy one. But the thing about hiding extras is it hides all sorts of things. So it hides guidelines. If you've got a selection, this is the most important one, I think. If you've got a selection of marching ants and you need to do really critical work on an edge, you can't see the edge because it's marching ants. But if you hit Command H, it will hide the marching ants. They're still in effect. You still have a selection going. They will still restrict where you can paint or not paint, where you can clone or not clone. They'll still function. It's just they're not, you don't see them. And then when you hit Command H again, so go ahead and hit Command H again, they come right back. So it's not like I'm getting rid of it, it's just that I'm hiding them. So I'm gonna hit Command H again to hide them because they're boring and in my way. So we are going to, well, I'm going to ask you this. I think I've already spoiled the surprise here, but what is the single best selection tool in Photoshop? Has been since its inception? Anyone?
Based on what you told us you're going to go over.
Yeah, it's going to be the pen tool, right? So no, a lot of people think, oh, it's the magic wand tool. Oh, it's the, it's the quick selection tool. Oh, it's that tool, this tool, and that tool. It isn't. The issue with all of this is that the best tool to manually build a selection is the pen tool. So I'm going to ask you guys this. How many of you guys, when you're actually working on masks, you'll go in with a brush and you're trying to paint really closely to a line to basically make a selection, right? And you do a pretty good job of it, but you screw up a little part of it. So then you, instead of painting for black, you go to white, and you then paint with white along that same line to try to refine it. And then that fucks up a little bit. So then you go back to the black paint line again, and you just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And an hour later, you still don't really have a good selection, right? I'm going to eliminate that. We're going to just cut to the chase. But how many people in this room have ever used the pen tool? No, go ahead and raise your hand, because you raise your hand because you should like get a badge or something, right? That you have suffered through the most fucked up tool that you can possibly lay your hands on in Photoshop, right? Did it work for you ever? No, it's horrible. It's everything about it is it's a train wreck, right? So I am going to untrain wreck it for you. I am going to show you a way to do it, to use the pen tool that actually works and that actually is simple to use and that you can actually remember. I'm going to simplify this tool to a point of absurdity. So that's going to be the goal for today. And I will tell you, once you master what I'm going to show you today, you will still be tempted to do that paintbrush trick later on. For the next year or so, you'll still be tempted to go back. And then finally, I promise you, you will give up and you will use the pen tool for the rest of your life, and you will save yourself years of your life of working with that stupid brush trying to get the correct edge, and you'll just go in and bang it out with the pen tool and move on. That's a pretty lofty promise, right? See if it... Hopefully I haven't over-promised. Was it over-promised to under-deliver? Hopefully I'm going to under-promise and over... I don't know what I'm going to do. One of those. All right, so to use the pen tool right off the bat, the shortcut for it is the P key. So if you just hit the P key, you can then look and see what got selected on your toolbar. It happens right below the hand, just above the little T, so the type tool. That's where actually the pen tool is. If you click on it, in the lower right-hand corner part of it, you should get a flyout menu. And you will see that in the flyout menu, you have the pen tool, the freeform pen tool, the curvature pen tool, the add anchor point tool, the delete anchor point tool, and the convert point tool, right? You can ignore everything underneath the pen tool. It is the only tool you're going to use. So this tool that's got 6 tools, I just knocked 5 of them out. So I just simplified this. I don't know, what's 5 into 6 into 15 times 5. So I just knocked out 85% of the complexity of this tool. So the pen tool, it's all you're ever going to use. Forget about the rest of it. If you hate your life, then watch YouTube videos about how to use all those other tools. And then you'll just quit using the pen tool because it got so complicated you don't know how to use it anymore and you hate your life. Anyway, so then once you do that, up at the options bar, this part matters, there is a little drop down, and in that little drop down you need to make sure that path is what is selected. You're never going to change it. Then right next to it, you don't need to worry about what it makes. Keep working your way over. You don't need to worry about this little icon right now. It's the 2 squares that are sort of overlapped. We will get to that one a little bit later. You don't need to worry about the next one over, but the gear you do need to worry about. So click on the gear. And in the gear, when it opens up, by default, this is not selected. You need to actually put a check mark by the rubber band. I'll show you what that is in just a minute. In terms of the thickness, depending on the version of Photoshop that you're in, this either doesn't exist or it does exist. In the older versions of Photoshop, you never could control this. But our thickness the default is going to be 1 pixel. That's what I would leave mine at. And then the color. And the default is this sort of like middle blue. And that's a good one to actually keep. The only reason that there's a drop-down menu right next to it, you'll see you can change this to be any other color. The reason that you would want to change this to a different color is if you are working on an image that's got a lot of blue in it. you will not be able to see the line you're trying to draw. So you just temporarily change it to red or to in some other color so that you can see it. Changing the color isn't going to have any impact on how the tool works at all. So I'm going to leave this at its default for right now. And then finally, last thing over on the far right-hand side is you want to put a check mark in the auto add and delete. And this tool is now set up to work correctly. You won't ever have to change anything about these settings again. You will occasionally have to use one of these little boxes up at the very top, but other than that, this tool is set up the way it's going to work. We're not going to change anything about it. Now, what I'm going to show you, and this is, I strongly suggest you download this. I suggest you download all the PDFs that are in the resources for our website, but this is an important one. So if we go to our modules for week number 4, which is this week, and you click on resources, inside of resources, there is just this support, the pen and tool path. If you click on this to open this up, it will not only show you how to actually set up the pen tool, but it will also walk you through all of the steps that I'm getting ready to show you. So we're going to go through this in spades today, but if you get home to do your homework and you don't remember how to do this, you can either refer to the video or you can refer to this PDF. Now you'll notice if you look at this PDF, the rubber band option is by itself. There is no line thickness, all of this. This actually goes back to a book that I have had since 1991. Most of you weren't even born then. Actually, none of you were born then. What am I talking about? No, I just realized that this was 2025, and okay, there's nobody in here is over 35, right? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Except for me, I turned 36 yesterday. No. So this is taken from an extremely old book, a text that taught me. This is where I learned to do the tricks that I'm going to show you right now, and it changed everything for me. So at any rate. Just so that you know it's there. There's other things about here that you will actually notice. There's 2 other things in here that matter. Remember I said that those icons at the top, you would rarely use them. Occasionally you have to use them, and that's what this next part is about. How do multiple paths overlap? How do they interact with each other? Again, I will show you an example of it, and you'll be good to go. And then finally, there is this thing down here, zero selective color mask building. I'm hoping that we have time to get to this today. This is a game changer. If we don't get to it today, it'll be where we start next week. So just so that you guys are aware that these things exist, do not leave them on the Canvas site. Download them, put them someplace, make a folder, retouching techniques, whatever, something, and keep all of this stuff so that you can refer back to it. And there you go. All right. So back in the tool right now, I have got the pen tool selected. Again, this is another one of those reasons that does everybody have the tool as a cross? Does anybody have it where it looks like a pen? Okay. If you have it where it looks like a pen, it is of no use to you, so you're going to change that right now. You need to go to the preferences or settings. If you're old school, old enough, it's called preferences. Otherwise, it'll be called settings. On a Macintosh, it's under the Photoshop menu. On Windows, it's at the very bottom of the edit menu, not the file menu, but the edit menu. Go into preferences or settings. Come down to cursors. And when this opens up, in the cursors, you want to change other cursors from standard to precise, and then say OK. You should now have a cross, right? You can't do those little icons, they're cute, but you can't do serious work with it. Then 2 keyboard shortcuts, well, one really and one slightly modified, that you're going to use all the time. The first one is that spacebar and the command key. You will temporarily, the pen tool stops being the pen tool temporarily, and you just get the magnifying glass. And I want you to magnify in on the V so that the V gets pretty big. Then the second keyboard shortcut is to let go of the command key or the control key and just hold down the space bar, and you get the hand tool, and you can move this around. And I want you to just kind of get it in the center of your frame so you're comfortable in working with it. When we actually get into doing work with the pen tool on a bigger image, you will stop in the middle of doing some work, move your screen so that you can continue on the work again. So we'll get to that in just a second as soon as we do this part first. So I want you to watch what I'm going to do with this tool first, and then I'm going to let everybody do it. So I'm going to start by coming up to the very corner at the very top left of the V, and I'm going to click once. I'm not holding down, I've just clicked. That's all I did. And you can see it put down a little point. Now, if I pull away from that, you can see that there's a line that connects these two. That is the rubber band. If you did not have the rubber band on, you don't have that point. You can't see it. It's not going to change. The tool will still work. It'll be fine. But this rubber band is an additional visual aid to make sure that you're actually hitting the lines that you really want to hit. So I'm going to come down to the very bottom of the V. I'm going to get, again, that at my X right on that point, and I'm going to click again, and it puts down another point. Then I'm going to come up to the top and click again. You guys get this, right? Hang on 1 second. I'm going to come over and hit that point, this point down here, this point up here. And then finally, when I get back to the original, you'll see that your cursor changes into something that looks like a little pen with a circle. And if you click on that, all it does is it tells you that you have completed the circle. So I need everybody to outline the V. Oh, by the way, do not do this with a tablet. So here, look up really quickly here. This is the problem in using a tablet. So you can see you need to be really precise about where these little points are when you do it. And the problem with a tablet is that if I'm hovering over the top of the tablet to try to get my point located, and I get it located perfectly, and then I actually drop the stylus down to set the point, when you do that motion down, you can see your hand curves. And when you actually hit your tablet, it will move your point off. So a tablet is only frustrating to actually do this work with. Don't do it. The best tool that you can use for doing pen work, if you get into a whole lot of it, is a mouse. Because you can put your mouse right on that point, and then it's a click of the button. It's not, trackpad has some of the same issues as this, not totally, but some of the same issues. You've got to use your finger to get the point right where it's supposed to be, and then you drop a finger to actually make the click. That's what, a mouse is actually the best tool. So again, people who do this professionally would only use a mouse for this. So speaking of profession, how important is the pen tool? There are factories in India that do nothing but this work, and they employ hundreds of people who do just this kind of work all day long. You'll see why in just a little bit. All right, so has everybody got the V? We good? Okay. If you come over to your palette, your layers palette, you will see that the path palette is right behind it. Click on the path palette tab, and you will be able to see, in my case, I've got a thing called work path, and it's sitting there really big, and I can see the V on it. And again, I keep hoping to convince you to use large thumbnails because you can actually see stuff in this that matters. So if you don't have a large thumbnail over here, come to the little hamburger. I can't call that a hamburger. It doesn't look a thing like a hamburger, right? It's like, I don't know what it is, but it isn't a hamburger. So anyway, but the menu at the far right side of the Path tab, click on it to get the drop down, come down to Panel Options, and then click on the radio button right next to the biggest of the icons. You'll actually be able to see shit in here. So I am now going to hold down my space bar to temporarily get the hand, and I'm going to drag my image over so that I can now do the eye. And I'm going to do the eye, and I need you guys to do the eye as well. And it doesn't matter what order you do this in. If you're a person who prefers to go clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. If you're a person who wants to start at the bottom and work your way up. It doesn't, and none of that part makes any difference at all. There's no order you have to do this in. But once you do the points for the eye, you'll actually see in the thumbnail that we've got the eye is in here as well. Then hold down your space bar, click and come over. Now we're actually going to do the A that is in the middle. Yes?
What does it mean when it's going both ways?
It means you're clicking and dragging. Yes, you cannot click and drag. These are single click points. We're going to get to dragging in just a second. But that brings up a great point. One of the things that makes the pen tool so complicated is how you actually get rid of mistakes, how you change that kind of stuff. The best advice that I can give you is that if you do something wrong, go back in history as opposed to trying to fix it. So your history panel is sitting right over here. If somehow I had made a mistake in this, I would simply go back in history till the mistake was undone, and then I would pick up from there and go forward again. Trying to correct a mistake. I'm going to show you how to correct some mistakes, but I'm just telling you right now, if you're going along and all of a sudden something goes haywire, instead of trying to fix it, go back in history and do it correctly. Okay, so before I do the A, what I want you to do is come over to your path palette, and you can see in your path palette right now, the path, it's called work path, and it's actually highlighted. What you need to know about work paths, though, is that they are temporary. So I want everybody to come over to work path, and I want you to simply click underneath it. And when you click underneath it, you'll see that work path is no longer highlighted. Now, you can see that it's still there. You've still got the VI on it, right? I mean, that part's still going, but it's no longer highlighted. So now I want everybody to do the A. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my A. You can start wherever you want to, and click, and then look at your work path. The VI is gone. And the reason the VI is gone is work path is only a temporary space. It's never meant to hold something permanently. And so the minute it is deselected and you go in and you start some new work, it always is going to become the work path. So if you've done this, hit Command Z. If you did more than one of those points, hit Command Option Z, or simply go back in your history to where you closed the last path. Now, with the last path closed, if you hover, again, I'm holding down the space bar and looking back over on my eye, you don't see the path anymore. And the reason you don't see the path anymore is because the path is not selected. So click on the work path, and now you will see those little blue outlines around the V and the I. But this makes doing path work very fraught. You can actually spend a lot of time making incredible selections and lose them. We don't want to do that. So you need to periodically save your paths. So to do that, you have two options. The first is go over to the thing that used to be the hamburger and click on that and come down and do Save Path. Again, you need to make sure that the path is selected. You can't save a path if it isn't selected. Come down and do Save Path, and I'm going to simply name mine VI because that's what it is, and say OK. Now you will notice that it's actually got a name on it called VI. Now I'm going to do the same trick that we did before. I'm going to click underneath it to deselect it, and then I'm going to go after the A, and I'm going to click on the very bottom of the A, and now you'll notice it has created a brand new thing called work path. Again, all of the work that you do is temporary until you save it. So, but the VI is still there. Everybody good on this part? All right, so we're going to stay on the work path. Yeah.
What drop-down menu did you go to save it?
So again, let me go out of this really quickly. So the drop-down menu over here to, in my case, I can't save, it's already saved. Click on it, and you come down to Save Path. Mine's already saved, so I can't do it. The other way you can actually do this, we're going to do it in just a second because I'm going to do it for the A. So again, I'm going to click underneath this. I'm going to then click on the A and just outline the A really quickly. Well, take your time. And so now I've got the A, but again, the A is temporary. So I want to save it as well. So the other way to save something is to simply double click on the work path. When you do, the Save Work Path dialog will open up and you can simply name it A, because that's what it is. So now I've got two paths. Are we good on this part? Okay. You can copy and paste work paths. You can cut and paste work paths, or not work paths, just paths in general. So to see what I'm talking about here, click on the A to make it active. I'm going to go up to the Edit menu and come down to Copy, or you can use the Command keyboard shortcuts for it, for copy. I'm going to then click on the VI path and do a paste, Command V. And you will see, because I copied it, it has now put a copy of the path that was on A up onto my VI. It's all in the same group right now. If you hit Command Z to undo that, you can go back to the A. You can do a cut, which will get rid of it. In the copy part, it makes a copy. In this case, we're going to cut it. So again, up to the Edit menu, down to Cut, or Command X, which is the cut. You'll see it now disappears. But when you click on the VI path and do Paste, or Command V to paste it, it comes right in and it's sitting right there. Now the name is never going to change, but the path is now, they're all located in the same spot. Is everybody good on this part so far? All right, this is where it gets tricky. Hold down the space bar to get the hand to temporarily scooch over for the C. So I want everybody to watch how I do this first before you go in and do this. Just watch, and then I'll let everybody do it. So I'm going to start off with the bottom part of the C deliberately. This is where I want you to start as well. So I'm going to click once, and it actually puts down my point again. I'm going to come up to the top, and I'm going to click again once. But now I need to do curved lines. And the way you do curved lines, two pieces of advice that I'm going to try to give you right here. There are people who get really good at this, who can do this in fewer points than I'm going to show you how to do. But bite this off on small chunks first until you get used to the tool. And as you get more used to it and more comfortable with it, you'll get more aggressive with it. And then you'll get too aggressive with it and have to go back in time because you tried to do too much. Conceivably, if this was a perfect circle, somebody could come down here and select a point down here and scrap that circle. I don't ever see that actually happening. So anyway, this is how I'm going to advise you to do it. So what you do with the work path is that I'm going to try to do this arc in 3 different spots. I'm going to put a point right here at about, I'm going to refer to this as a clock face. I'm going to put a point right about 10 o'clock. I'm going to do another point right about 8 o'clock, and then another point at 6 o'clock. That's how I'm going to use 3 different points to describe this arc. But this is the trick to using the tool. So again, this is the thing that's going to screw you up in the beginning, but it's why we're here this afternoon to actually do this. So what you do is this. You actually take off what you think is a number, the amount that you can scribe, and this feels good to me. You click and you continue to hold your mouse down. Then you drag in the direction that you want your path to go. So you'll see as I start pulling, my path is heading in this direction. It's going to continue to head down this line right here. So I'm still holding down my mouse is being held down the whole time. What you'll see is these 2 handles come out. These are control handles. What you'll notice is if you have a very short set of control handles, look at what it's primarily impacting. It's having a much stronger impact at near the point that I'm working at right now. If I pull this handle way out, what ends up happening is I end up impacting the area of the original point more. It's less of an impact on the point that I'm dragging out right now. So your trick to doing this is you want to simply drag this out so that it perfectly describes that arc, just like I'm doing right now. Don't do this yet. We're only halfway through this. Let go, come back to the point in the middle, hold down your Option key and click once. It will get rid of the primary, one of the 2 control handles. This is the secret to using the pen tool. So don't do this yet. Hang on one more second. I'm going to come down to my 8 o'clock point. I'm going to click drag in the direction that my path is going. Describe that arc. Let go of my mouse. Come back to the center point. Hold down the Option key. Get rid of that line. And finally come down and do it to the very bottom. And come back and get rid of this point. Now the advantage of also getting rid of the point now, one last thing I'm going to show you and then I'm going to let you do this, is now you come up and it's no longer a click and drag. Remember, all those straight lines we did, we were not clicking and dragging any of those. You just come up and click that same point at the top, and then you do click and drag to finish this up. So I need everybody to outline the C. And when you have trouble, sing out, and I will come help you. Who is this not working for?
How you got rid of this at the beginning.
Command H. And then in this case, say hide extras. That's the only time you'll see it. You're good. Yes.
Mine doesn't disappear when I go back to.
All right, so come back to the center point, hold down your Option key, and then let go of your Option key and continue. It's the same process every time. Is everybody else good on this? Okay, that's good right there. So then let go. Circle back around now to the center point. Hold down your Option key, Option, and click once. Gets rid of that second point. And then let go of your Option key and continue to work your way around. Okay, drag again in the direction that the line's going. So yeah, I mean guys, you're obviously seeing it takes a little bit of skill to get that. How far do I pull the lines out? How much do I twist on it? Whatever, to get that line to form perfectly. But it comes really pretty quickly. And then again, when you come back, make sure that you hover over the center point, hold down the Option key, and click once. It'll get rid of that point. It gets rid of the second. So here's the trouble with the pen tool that a lot of people run into, is because you have both control handles all the time. They're affecting everything. They're affecting more than. So what we're doing here in effect is that every single time we get rid of that second control handle, it's like we're starting over. It's like we're starting from the beginning. It's not aware of anything that's happened previously. So the control handles that have happened previously will have no impact on what you're doing next. And so every single time, it's as if we're starting the path all over again. We're not, but that's kind of the way the mechanics of it work. And so you only have to control one handle instead of two for everything that you do. And there's only one handle that is controlling one point. It's not controlling multiple points, both in the front and the back of the point that you're actually trying to put down. Okay, has everybody almost got this? Are we good? Yes.
I know it makes it easier, but why would you not want to get rid of both of the
To get rid of both of the points?
Yeah.
Because you can actually go back in and grab another point and refine something later on down the line. And if you get rid of both the points, you don't have a curve anymore. So if you get rid of this point, this will become a straight line that goes across. Yeah. Okay, are we ready to go move on? Next challenge. Okay. Hold down the space bar, temporarily get the hand, and bring the O into place. So there are rules about doing path work that just simplify it. And so the rule that I'm going to throw out to you, the one thing that you should remember about this, there's only a couple of these, so it's not like there's this long list. But when you're doing something like this, you want to always start on the outside and work your way in. And so what I mean by that is that we are going to do the outside of the O first, and then we're going to do the inside. And if you do it in that order, Photoshop will understand what it is you're selecting. If you do it in the opposite order, sometimes it'll understand, but a lot of times it will get confused. And now once it gets confused, you can go in and fix that. But again, I'm trying to keep this tool as simple as I possibly can. So when we are working, it's just keep in your mind, it's always best to start on the outermost path first and then work your way into the next one and then into the next one. You continue to work your way in from the outside. If you do it always in that order, it will make your life a whole lot easier. So for the O, I'm going to again start at the very top around noontime. I'm going to just click a single point. Around 10 o'clock, I'm going to click and drag out again. Let go, come back, hover over the center, hold down my Option key and get rid of it. You guys know the drill, so go ahead and do the O, the outside first. And once you complete the outside, go for the inside. You guys good? I'm thinking the people who are doing this right now are like still working on it a little bit. So no, guys, there's no rush. I'm not. This is an important one. I want to take the time to make sure that this is right. Yes.
Real quick, when you were doing earlier, like you combined the paths, I also like didn't get to that, where like you created the A path.
Okay.
I just didn't see how you did that.
No, so it's simple. I'll show you really quickly here. So I'm gonna continue on. So you guys finish your O, but if I select underneath this, so if I'm on this and I start to work, it's going to be with everyone else. But I can start a separate one. I can just start a whole new path. So if I start a new one like this, and let's just say I do part of the M right here, and I'm just going to complete it like that. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can see this is a work path right here. You can copy or cut these. So I'm just going to do Command X to cut it, and then up here, select it, and then Command V, and it pastes right in. But I'm not going to do that, so.
Is cut just like deleting basically?
No, cut literally cuts it away, but if you want to keep the second version of it, then you would do a copy. It's just the difference. So here, if I did the same thing, let me go back. So here it is again down at the bottom. Let me finish it right here. So if I do a copy of this instead, so Command C is a copy. You can use your edit menu, so either cut or copy. I'm just going to do a copy and then come up here and do a paste. The original doesn't go away because I just made a copy of it. When you do a cut, you're really saying, I want to remove this from the work path and put it up here. Okay? Okay, do we have the O? Are we good to move on? Okay. Well, this would be a good time to actually show you guys this. Select underneath it right now. So again, I'm not going to select I'm just clicking underneath the work path. I'm going to start a brand new work path. You can actually start the path first. Again, if you just start to do the M right now, it's going to create a new work path. But you could come to the thing that used to be a hamburger, and you could click on that and come down and say, I want to just start a new path. And I'm going to click on that, and it'll say, well, what do you want to call it? I'm going to say M, and then say, OK. This is protected now. This is not a temporary path. This is the real deal. So if we then click on the M to actually do it, we're back to only straight line segments now. You don't have any click and dragging. So one thing don't do, I've had people actually do the assignments that we're going for. Oh, by the way, really quickly, everybody look at my screen really quickly. So I got up this far, but I didn't center my M before to begin with, so I can't really hit the point down here where I'm trying to get. But again, just hold down your space bar. You will temporarily get the hand. You can click and drag this over, let go of the space bar, and you have not put down another point. You just move things so that you could get at them. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish the M. And again, at this point, it's a little close to the edge of mine, so I'm just going to hold down the space bar so I can get it more centered and then finish my path. All right, are we good on this? Okay, so now I've got the M is on its own separate path layer, and I'm going to copy it again just to go through this whole copy and paste. Now, I'm not going to cut this, I'm going to copy it. So again, I've got the bottom one. There is nothing to select. It is really literally up to the edit menu and down to copy, and then click on the more complete path that's sitting up at the very top to make it active, and then Command V or paste, and you can see it puts the M right up there where it belongs. But now I've got a second copy of the M, and I don't want this copy of the M, so you can simply grab this path and drag it down to the trash down at the very bottom, and it will get rid of it. And then I'm going to select on my very one up at the very top. Are we good on this part? Okay. So I want to actually load this as a selection so that I can use it. How would you guys load this as a selection? Like we do every other load selection in the world, hover over the icon, hold down the command key, and click. And you now have marching ants. You have now just loaded it as a selection. just like we load channels as selections, just like we load layer masks as selections. It's all the same. Is this good for everyone? Does everybody have the marching ants? So let's see how well we did. Go back into your layers palette. I'm going to go to the very top because my Viacom is sitting on top of a background layer. I just want to add a blank layer on the very top of this. So I'm going to just select the Viacom layer and then click on the little square with a plus in the middle to add an empty layer on the top. I haven't done anything to it. I haven't filled it. I still got marching ants going. And I'm going to click on my foreground color, and I want to put a color. I don't know. What color are we going to go for, guys? Really quick. Top of your head. Green, okay. So I'm going to type in the red box 0, tab key to get to the green, type in 255, tab key down to the blue, type in 0 and hit OK. Green is now my foreground color. So I'm then simply hold Option Delete to fill it with green, Command D to deselect. Yes.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, can you please repeat that?
Sure. Sure, I'll take it from the very top. Hang on. I'm going to get rid of that layer. I'm going to go back to my path palette. You got this all together on one, right? Hover over the icon, hold down your Command key, and click. Did you get marching ants?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Go into the layers palette. Make sure that the Viacom layer is selected, because I want to put a blank layer on the very top. When I came over here originally, background was what I had, and if I put another layer on top of this, it would go between the Viacom and the background. I want it on the very top. So I just selected the top. Then I'm going to click on the little icon at the bottom that's the square with the plus. That adds an empty blank layer. You can see it's got checkerboard in it. That just, you know. Then I wanted to make green as my foreground color, so I click on the foreground color picker. I type, select the red radio button, type in 0, hit the tab key, it'll take me down to the green, type 255, one more time for the tab key to go down to the blue, and 0. So again, no red, no blue, only green, but all the green, and say OK. Now I've still got the marching ants going, so I want to fill this with my foreground color. Option Delete fills with your foreground color. And then Command D to deselect to get rid of the marching ants. And double click on the hand. Try to do that with a brush.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, that seemed to take us quite a bit of time, but that's because you guys are just learning this part. We're actually going to use this on a real image, and you'll see how fast I can blow through a real image. But we're not done here. We've still got work to do here. So I'm going to temporarily turn off the green that we just added, only because it can confuse things. I want to be able to really work on the paths themselves. So I'm going to go back to the path. I've got the Viacom part right here. Again, because it is not selected, I mean, none of the path, I don't even know what to call this thing. The path layer, it's not really a layer, but because the paths are really all the lines and the points that are actually sitting on this thing. So they're all out here. I don't know what to call this thing. So the path layer, I guess. Okay, so the path layer, click on the Viacom path layer, whatever, and you see all the blue outlines that we actually just put on here. If you zoom into them, though, what you'll notice is that you don't see any of the points. You can actually do things using the points on here, but we need to select them first. So to do that, there are two other tools that we use when we do path work now. You have learned everything you need to know about the pen tool. Well, almost everything. Now what we need to look at is tools that we can use to change stuff that we've already done. So to do that, it's actually, I don't know why they don't put these next to each other. It's the tool that's right underneath the type tool. It's either a black arrow or a white arrowhead. So it's either a black or a white one. We're going to start with the black one. So that's the one that's at the very top. If you click on the drop-down menu, you'll see that it says Path Selection Tool. And if you come over to your image and I'm going to just click on the path that is the V, and you'll notice that it actually selects all the points. But you'll also notice that these points are all the same. They're all blue. So with this selected, I can actually now click and drag, and I can move the path anywhere I want to. So I can move it completely off the template that I used to make it. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. You'll notice that nobody else moved when I did that. You can also use this tool to select more than one path. So this is, there's 5 letters here, V-I-A-C-O, no, 6 letters here. There are 6 paths on this. Each one of these is separate and individual. If you hold down your Shift key and click on the I, they are now both selected. The V and the I are both selected, and now I can click and move both of them. Command Z to undo that. If you zoom out, so again, I want to temporarily get the negative magnifying glass. To get that, you hold down the space bar and the command key, command key, which gives you the positive magnifying glass. But now if you add the option key to that, so now I'm holding down the 3 keys that are next to each other, space bar, command, and option, you get the negative magnifying glass. Click, and you can zip back out so that you can see the entire image. I still have the black tool selected. If you now click and drag across all of your image, it will select all of the paths and all of the points. And now you can actually click and move the whole thing around. Command Z to undo that. So that works out pretty well. If you have made a mistake and you want to start over, so I'm going to click on using the black tool. I'm going to click outside so I'm not touching anything, and you'll notice that everybody gets stopped. If you come now and click on just the M and hit the delete key, it's gone. If you hit Command Z, it will bring it back. I don't want you to get rid of it. I just want you to know that you can do that part. So let's say you've done all of this work and then you realize that part of it is all fucked up. You can actually go back and just get rid of the path and draw it again. It's not going to kill you. It didn't take us that long. Does that make sense? Okay. We're now going to look at something different. I need you to move into the V. And what I want to show you is I did this deliberately, or at least that's what I'm telling you. You'll notice that there's a mistake right here in the part of the V right in here. There's a mistake. This point is, well, I'll zoom way in so you can really see it. This point is slightly off. It's not down here where it actually should be. Can everybody see that on my screen? All right, so I'm going to zip back out just so that you know it's there, and I'm going to fix it now. In this case, you want to use the other arrowhead, the white one. So if you click on this drop-down menu and you come down to the direct selection tool and you click on that, I'm going to come over to the V again and I'm going to click on it. And now what you see is that all of the points on here are white. If I come down now here to the V that's the problem, I can click on it and you can see it is the only point now that is blue. All of the others are white. What the white points indicate is that they are frozen. They are, it's like they've been stapled to our artboard here. They will not move, but the blue one is now flexible. So with the blue one selected, I can now remove this and I can change it all around. And so I'm just going to set it and bring it back down to refine it. It's actually now in a better place. Still, look up at my screen. I've also got a problem with the point that's sitting up here at the top. So at the top right-hand side of mine. So for mine, you'll notice right now that, again, the blue one that I just moved is still blue. Everybody else is white. But if I come up to this top one and hover over it and click, you'll notice it is now blue, but the point that I fixed to begin with has now gone white. It is frozen in place, and now I'm just moving this point that's up here to fix it. So this is the tool that you use to go in and refine your path. So you can take a look around, like there's another point up here on the very top of my eye that probably should get kicked out slightly. This is where a mouse really comes into play. There's another point at the bottom of my A that is slightly off. You can fix that. C looks pretty good. The O looks good. My M looks good, and we're off to the races. Up the top of one of my M's is a little bit off. So that's basically the direct selection tool. However, it can do more than that. So right now, I've changed my whole path part. I've refined it all. So the layers that I've got here, this Viacom that's up on the top, is no longer valid. I've made changes after the fact here. So I'm going to throw this layer away. I'm going to click to add a brand new one on the very top. I'm going to go back to my path palette. I'm going to hover over the icon, hold down the command key, click to load the marching ants, come back to my layers palette. Green is my foreground color. Option delete. Command D. When I change the path, I've refined it. I can't accept, or I'm not going to keep the old version that had the mistaken points. So I just went back and fixed it all. Does that make sense to everyone, what just happened? I just changed my points. So the original fill that you did, have you changed any of your points? Oh, well then you don't have anything to change. I changed mine so they were no longer going to be the same.
Okay.
Make sense? And this is true of all selections. If you refine a selection, you need to realize that it's new, and that if you've got an old selection, you should be getting rid of the old one that is bad and then using the new one to do the work you're trying to do. Okay. I'm going to come back I'm going to, again, turn off that top layer just so I can say, I'm going to come back to my path again. So I'm going to do one last thing here. And the last thing that I want to do here is I want to do a dovetail. See that I'm looking at the very bottom of my M. And what a dovetail means is that I want to actually do a shape. It doesn't matter what the bottom of it is, but I want the shape where it actually touches the M to perfectly fit into this negative space right here. Does that make sense what I'm going for? So I'm trying to just fill the bottom of this M with something, and whatever I do on the bottom, I'm not going to just do something straight across. Whatever I do on the bottom, I don't care what that shape is, but just something that'll fit into that. So basically what a dovetail is take a look at my hands really quickly here. You've got positive space like this, so this would be the M like this. And what I want to do is I want to create the things that are going to fit perfectly inside of it. That's what a dovetail is. So this is like emulating a dovetail. Does that make sense, everybody, what I'm going for here? So what do you think the chances are that I can actually start a brand new path here and hit those same points, and that it will fit what I already have drawn, the path that I originally have of the M, perfectly? And I mean perfect. On a single pixel level, what do you think the chances are that I can draw a path that'll do that? And I'm really good, but David is exactly right. Big zero. Not possible. You cannot do it. Don't even try to do it. There is a better way, and this is the better way. I'm going to go to the black selection tool, the path selector tool, and I'm simply going to, you need to select the path layer that we're on. I'm going to click on the M and I'm going to copy it. Command C to copy it. And then I'm going to come over to my used to be hamburger and click on it and say, I want to do a new path. And I'm going to click on it and it'll say, what do you want to call it? And I'm going to do, what can we do? I'm going to do M inverted. Not that it's really M inverted, but I just want it to look like something different than it is. And it is now selected, and so now I'm just going to do Command V to paste, and it puts a copy of my M there. So I've still got the M that's sitting up on the very top, but I've also got an M that's sitting down here on the bottom right now. Everybody good on this part? Does everybody have a copy of the M? Okay, let's do it all again. So, select the path layer that's got Viacom on it. Are you good? Okay. Go over and grab the black arrowhead, not the white one, but the black one, and simply click on the M. And you should get all the little points on it. Are you good? Go up to the edit menu and come down and do copy. We good? Go over to the used to be hamburger little drop down menu to the right of the path tab and click on it, and you'll get a flyout menu and say new path. a dialog box will open up. And I'm going to name it, I'm not going to call mine this one because why name it the same thing twice, right? I'm going to call it M negative. M negative. And say OK. And you will see now you've got a separate path layer called M negative, right? And it is selected, it's highlighted. Up to your edit menu, down to paste. And you now have a copy of the M in it. We good? Okay, everybody else good? Okay, so now what I need to do is go to my direct selection tool, the white tool, the white arrowhead, and I'm going to come up to the very top of my M, and I'm going to click on one of the points at the very top, and you will notice that it becomes blue and all of the other points go white. Again, the white signifies that they are frozen. The only thing that is going to change is that blue point. So if you click on it, you can move it all around. You can see the only thing that is changing is that point. Everybody else is stuck into place. But you can also get rid of it. So simply hit the delete key and it's gone. So I need to get rid of more points. I'm going to click on the point that's down in the bottom of the middle section part. It goes blue, everybody else is white, but I want to get rid of more of these than just one at a time. So hold down your shift key and click on the point that's up at the very top. This is now selected 2 points. If you come right in the middle of both of those and actually start to move it, you will see that they move together. Doesn't matter, I'm going to hit the delete key to get rid of them. Now I've got everything is gone except for this stuff that's at the very bottom. I don't want the ones that are in the far left corner, the far right corner. So I'm going to click on the point that is on the very bottom on the far left side. I click on it, it stays blue, everybody else is white. Hit the delete key, it gets rid of it. Although that didn't, yep, that didn't get rid of it. Looks like I got a double down there. Huh. And I don't know why that's happening, but yeah, there you go. And then I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to click on the corner point. It goes blue, hit the delete key, and it's gone. So now all I have got is points on the inside of the M. Is everybody good on this part? Then hit the P key to get the pen tool, or click on it, and simply come over to it doesn't matter. I'm going to click on one on either the far left side or the far right side. Don't click on something in the middle. I'm going to click, and then I'm just going to come down and put some weird shape down in the bottom and then come back and complete my path. This is now the perfect dovetail. To find out and make sure it is, I'm going to command click on this to load it as a selection. I'm going to go back to my layers palette. I'm going to turn on the Viacom layer. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to change its color. I'm going to do red. We're going to do a Christmas theme. I'm going to click on the foreground color. I'm going to type in the R dialog box, and I'm going to put in 255 for the R, and then hit the tab key and come down and hit 0 for the green. That gives me a pure red, although I'm going to do cyan. So hit the tab key and go down to the blue and type in 255 for the blue. Oh, or magenta, even better. I'm going to say OK to that. Magenta is now my foreground color. Hit Command, it's my foreground color, Option Delete, Command D to deselect. That's how you do a perfect dovetail of paths. Try to do that with a brush. Try to do that with the quick selection tool. Try to do that with the magic wand tool. Actually, the magic wand tool will be the best thing for this. It'll be the closest. Are there questions about this? Yes?
What's the keyboard shortcut to fill?
So again, if you look at your keyboard, this is true for Windows and Mac as well. Look at your space bar on your keyboard. If you look at the key just to the left of it and add the delete key, or in Windows it's called the, it's not delete on Windows. What's yours called? Backspace. Yeah. So if it's Windows, it's backspace. If you look to the key just to the left of that, in the case of Macintosh, it's the Option key plus delete. It fills with the background color. So those two keys just to the left of your spacebar function exactly like your foreground and your background color when you add the delete key. The one that's Command delete will always be background regardless of what the background color is. And then the same thing, and Option delete will always be the foreground regardless of what color it is. Okay, are we good on this part? Okay, so Verser, show me why I care. You can close this up. You do not need to save this. Need to go back to the folder that we have been in, and there is a raw file in there called m_7027_02191.cr2. It's the only really super weird name one in there. You need to double click on that and launch that. And when we get into Photoshop, this could have been processed. If you want to see what the default of this is like, look at inside of Camera Raw. There's a little 3 dots on the far right-hand side, kind of right in the middle of the workspace. So take a look at my screen if you don't see what I'm talking about. If you click on those little 3 dots, you can come back down and hit Reset to Default. And when you do that, it will go to its default. And then we are going to open this as a smart object. Everybody good on this part? Okay, this is going to be a bit of a slog right now, so I think this is a really good time for a quick break. I'm going to even give you a little bit more time on this one. We're going to make this a hard 12 or hard 11. So I've got 344. Let's call that 345. Be back at 355, and we will figure out why I told you guys you have to use the pen tool.
How did you reset it to default?
So if you are in Camera Raw, like this, see these little 3 dots on the far right-hand side, kind of in the middle?
Yeah.
Click on it and come down, and you should have a reset to default.
It's grayed out.
If it's grayed out, then it already is at its default.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. Okay, so the file I ask everyone to open, again, if you look in your Session 4 folder for this class, it's this file called m_7027. I've got 2 of them in here. One is the raw file, the other is just the XMP file. Just double click on that. It should launch and go into Photoshop. And it looks like this. This is actually in Camera Raw for me, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that. And then hide everybody else. And double click on the hand. So this is what this is basically what I've got. Are we good on this part? Has everybody got this file open? Sage, did you get in?
To the server?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Stop drawing so I can follow along.
Okay, good. I was going to suggest that, and then we'll figure it out at the after class. Okay. All right, so everybody's got this going. Okay, so I want to actually select this. I want to knock this figure out from the background. I've got 2 challenges here. One is the hair, and obviously the pen tool is not going to work for the hair. That's just not the way you want to go after that. So we are going to figure out how to work that part. But I am going to actually do the pen tool to actually make the selection of the figure. This is, again, one of those things. Now, we could try select subject. It might work well. It might not work well. Again, a pen tool has been around far longer than select subject. So I want to go ahead and do that with this because, what I end up finding is that even with select subject, a lot of times it'll get close, but then you've got to go in and refine it. And all the refining work that you do takes an hour, and I can actually make the selection of this figure in probably 10 minutes or so. We'll see how that works. So there's a couple of tricks that I'm going to show you about how to work with this tool, because one of the problems that we have right here in the very beginning, I'm going to hit the P key to get the pen tool again, or just select the pen tool. And then I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to start on the lower left-hand side of this girl's skirt. That's where I'm going to go in on to start this part. And you can see I'm just, again, holding down the space bar and the command key to zoom in. I don't go much in more than, like, again, it depends on the resolution of your file. You don't want to go in like monster close. Like, you don't want to be in at like 500%. You don't want to go in this close. It will take you forever to do this, because this is literally like about 1/4 of an inch of her skirt. So you'll spend, 5 minutes to get through this, and you just don't want to do that. So again, you want to try to look for the sweet spot. And so for me on this particular one, I'm thinking the sweet spot is about 200%, because if I take a look at the hand, it gives me some idea about the hand. And you'll also notice in the hand, it's actually got motion in it. It's a little bit soft. I'm still going to trust the pen tool to work for me with this. So, but the problem that I have is if I go down to the bottom edge of the skirt where I really want to start, and I bring the pen tool down here to actually start it, the minute I get to the point where it falls outside of my image, my tool, it's no longer the pen tool. It just becomes the cursor again. I can't work like that. So to avoid that, you hit the F key. Just hit the F key once. No modifier, the F key once. This puts it on what is called the pasteboard. If you double click your hand, you'll see what it ultimately ends up looking like. It's a gray screen. You can use the hand to move around on this, and you get a lot more flexibility. Typically, you can't move like this, the image like this, using the hand, but this pasteboard is infinitely tall and infinitely wide, so you can move all around here. But if you hit the P key again to get the pen tool, you'll also see that you can actually start the pen tool out here on the pasteboard. So I can actually start completely outside of my image and then slowly work my way in. So I'm going to get rid of that guy because I don't need it. So I'm going to zoom into this lower corner. And this is basically where I'm going to start is, yeah, right here. So I'm going to show you, I want everybody to watch how I do this first, because I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to get you to do this with me first, but watch me first for just a fraction, and then I'm going to pause and let all of you catch up. But the first thing I'm going to do is to talk about where the pen tool should really land. So I'm going to try to do the perfect selection of this, as are all of you. But if you have to make a mistake, is it better for your pen tool to cut off part of the skirt, or is it better for your pen tool to leave part of the background? You're thinking that's the better option. You would be wrong. So here's the deal. Watch this. I'm going to just, you don't need to do this really quick. I'm just going to do a really quick selection of this. Hang on one second. And I'm going to actually cut off part of the skirt. Cutting off quite a bit of the skirt, actually. I'm going to load this. So I'm just doing a really rough selection. I'm going to load this as a selection. I'm going to come over here, and I am going to add a layer mask. Can you tell I've cut off part of that skirt?
Yeah.
You can?
No, like,
On this edge, well, yeah, you see this part. I'm saying on this edge, did I hit that perfectly, or did I lose a little bit of that skirt on the edge?
You lost a little bit.
How do you know?
Oh, I guess you don't.
You guys are killing me here. Can you tell that the left side of that skirt is not all there? If you just saw this, you just walked in, you didn't see me do that, can you tell it's there?
No.
You do not know that it has been cut off, right? So this would work for me. If I was trying to composite this and I used this as an outline and I knocked her out, this would still work for me, correct? Okay. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start and I'm going to leave part of the edge. And do the same thing. Is that an acceptable knockout? No, you're keeping part of the background. So the reason I show you this is that you are better if you can't be perfect. The solution is to be perfect. None of us are perfect. If you have to make a mistake, you want to err to the inside and lose part of the skirt as opposed to keeping part of the background. If you keep part of the background, it doesn't matter. It's all bad. If you lose part of the skirt, no one will ever know, except for you. Does that make sense? Okay. Whew. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Getting rid of my work pass. We're good. All right, so I'm going to start, but again, I'm going to show you a quick trick. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm going to come up, and again, don't bite off more chunks than you need. But what you should think about this is that there are very, very, very few straight lines in the world. Certainly nothing that we would consider to be organic. So when we are doing stuff like this, the work that we're doing here, even if you have a straight line, you want to put a little bit of a bend into it, only because it keeps it from looking unnatural. It gives it just enough organicness to make you believe that the cutout or the knockout was actually true and it actually worked. If you've got a place that it's just a series of straight lines, it's going to look like something you cut out with a ruler and an X-Acto knife, and that is not organic. That would be no way to actually approach this. So what I do is, I'm just going to come up here a little bit. I'm going to click and drag, and that's all I need to do. That's all the bend that I need to put into this. I don't need to do any more than that. I mean, it's not a radical thing. But now you also see a quick way to, if your line, if your path is continuing straight through that second handle, you do not need to eliminate it. So the trick that we've been doing all along with these, they call them brazier curves, with these curves is that you would now come back, hover over the center point, hold down your Option key, and get rid of it. You do not have to do that as long as this line is continuing sort of through that handle. So mine is, so I'm going to just continue through. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click and drag forward again and put a small little bend into it. Hold down the space bar to get the hand, scooch the whole thing down, and continue to work my way up. I do not need to do any of that getting rid of the second handle until I get here. So when I get here, there are a lot of people that would say, okay, well, my temptation now is to then circle around this part of the background right here and come back and, oh no, I've banged into my path again. What did I tell you about doing concentric paths? You start on the outside and then you do the insides. This is no longer the outside. If I want this to be outside, I needed to hit the fingertips right off the bat here. So again, instead of using all the fucking tools that they have to move this point, change it, whatever, I'm just going to hit Command Z to undo it so that I do it over correctly. And I'm simply going to come up to this point right here and drop a point. And then I need to go out and do the part in between her fingers. So I'm going to then click and come out to do the finger part right here. I can continue that part, but now I'm in a problem right here. Look at my fingers. Is that a perfect point that comes right in the middle, or is there a small curve in there? There's a curve in there. You need to put that into this image as well. So I'm going to zip into here so you can really see this. This is where I'm at right now. I'm going to actually change this color so that hopefully you can see it better. Yeah, it's easier to see that color. I'm going to come in here and just fake it. I'm going to, so I've got the point that I'm at right now. I'm going to click on this other side and simply drag to then give me that curve that's down in there. And then I'm just going to continue to work my way around here. And again, I haven't gotten rid of a second point yet. I'm going to come on this other side and try to get that, and I do a pretty good job there, but now I'm in a problem. I cannot continue through this white point here. So if I try to get this down here, I'm just in trouble. So I'm going to hold down my Option key and get rid of this second point like we've been doing, and then come down. Then I've got another one of those curves right here, so I'm going to click to get this back out. Again, I'm uncomfortable with that point, and so I'm going to then click and do this point and get this right here. Hold this to, again, I can't, my next point is going to grab too much background, so I've got to get rid of this. I'm going to come in here like this to this point, and then a lot of people would just lop that thumbnail off. If you do that, your path will not look believable. That's the keeping things like that are what make it look believable. And then I'm off to the races again. Spacebar to continue like that. Click and drag, click and drag, click. I'm zoomed way in on this, but these little divots right here, you need to make sure you get those. So I'm going to temporarily go out of this really quickly. So hang on one second. To get off the pasteboard, hit the F key once and then the F key again, and you'll be off the pasteboard. That's a really small pasteboard. I mean, a really small image. Hang on a second. Last thing I'm going to tell you, and then everybody's going to get to work on this. So when you're doing this kind of work, what I'm constantly looking for and thinking about are hills and valleys, hills and valleys, hills and valleys. So if we think these are hills and valleys right here, what you need to remember is that the pen tool excels at doing curves. So that informs you where you want to drop your points. So for instance, if you were starting to do a curve and you dropped a point right here, you defeat the entire purpose of what the tool does. You're much better off putting a point here, allowing the tool then to do the curve and have another point here. You're also better about putting points in the straightaways in the middle of them, so that then you can use the tool to do the curve on the bottom here. So you're never looking to put points, you're never looking to put points in the middle of the curve you want to describe. You're looking to put the points on the straightaways. Make sense? All right, so then to go back to this, P key, so, and then I can continue to work on this. So what I need everyone to do is outline this figure to the point that you come in where the hair becomes a problem. So I want you to come right up to this point of the collar and stop. Well, you don't need to stop when you get there. But anyway, I need everybody to start that now. I'm going to continue to work on mine. And if you're having problems, sing out. I'll come over and we'll fix it. So for me, I'm already at the collar. Don't let that make you feel bad. But I say that just to show you how quickly you can use this tool once you get used to it. Is this working for you or not? Okay. Are you done? Are you at the collar?
No.
Is this working for everyone? Okay, I'm concerned about our timing here, so just everybody pause for a second. You don't need to stop, but just pause for a second. Take a look up at my screen. I'm going to show you where I'm going to go next in this so that I can go ahead and complete this. So I got up to the collar, and I have to stop here because, again, on the outside I run into all the hair. So there's a different issue going to happen here. So this is where I am right now. I'm simply going to go directly across her body to where the hair is on the other side, and I'm going to start my pen to continue down here. So you can see I just went straight across her body. You do not need to worry about that. The selection that we're going to make is going to contain this anyway. So you don't need to worry about that. Just go all the way across. We will deal with the hair in a completely different way, but I'm going to finish working my way all the way down this side. When I get to the right edge, I'm going to also pause you for a second. But other than that, you guys keep going. Okay, everybody look up at my screen one more time really quick. This is the last time I interrupt you until. So now I've hit the far edge where it actually goes, where her arm is cut off, and it goes actually, you go out onto the pasteboard. Take a look at my screen. So I'll show you, I'm gonna zoom way out. This is where I'm at right now. You can set points all the way out here. These don't matter. Photoshop understands what I'm doing. It will not, when I go turn this into a selection, it knows where the end of my image ends. But what this allows me to do is it allows me to get a better attack angle on where I need to come back in for the lower part of her arm. I don't want to try to do a point in here coming from up here down. I want to attack it like this, so that then I can just continue my work along the bottom. So you guys can go back to what you're doing. And then for me, I'm completely through. So I'm just going to, I need to get back to my starting point. So take a look again really quickly on my screen. I'm just going to drop points out here on the outside to come back to complete my path. And at this point, I'm definitely going to save this path. I'm going to double click on it and call it body. So are you guys at least up to the first collar? Do we get that far? Okay, then do me a favor, because I want to go ahead and complete this. Don't worry about the right side of the figure. Simply take your path all the way over onto the pasteboard and work your way down and back around to the beginning part. You'll be able to still see the quality of your work on this left edge. You don't need to worry about doing the whole thing. And this isn't part of your homework. But I want to go ahead and continue this part because there's a couple things that you've got to see about this. I personally would just save this work right now because it's a good habit to get into. You can throw it away later. That's what I do, but I would save this right now. So if something happens, you've still got some reference that you can come back to. Everybody did get on the sign-in sheet, right? Then you need to get on it. Remember day one, your responsibility. All right, one thing I have not done that I said we should do, take a look at my screen here really quickly, is that cutout that's right here at where her hand is touching her skirt. So again, P key and actually go ahead and cut this part out. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and load this as a selection. I can get off the pasteboard now. I don't need to be on it. The pen tool has done all its work, or it's where it needs to be. So I'm going to hit the F key another time. This takes you to the black pasteboard, and then the F key one last time, and that'll get you back to where you got the little stoplight thing at the top, and the way you are typically working with this in Photoshop. So I'm going to load this as a selection. So to load this, I just want to see the quality of the outline that I've actually got here. So I'm going to load this thing as a selection. Hover over the, again, make sure that you've saved your path. So double click on it and name it body, or come over to the hamburger thing and do save path and name it, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but anyway, you need to start there. I'm going to hover over the icon, hold down the command key and click. It loads it as the marching ants, and you can see it no longer has it's going out on the outside, but it understands that that's what I'm trying to do here. And then I'm going to come over to the image itself, and I'm going to add that as a layer mask. And if we come in and you take a look at it, you can see that it does a good job, but the cutout line here is pretty extreme, too extreme in my opinion. The image itself has got a little bit of softness to it, but even if it didn't have enough softness to it, the fact that we're doing this with the pen tool gives us a single pixel line. That's what we're actually cutting on here, and it's too sharp. So instead of doing this, I'm going to throw this, or actually I'm going to do a snapshot of what my history looks like right now. So I'm going to just click on this. I actually have a history snapshot now that I can name. You guys have lost that with your updated version of Photoshop, but I'm going to call this Body Sharp. And say OK to that. Then I'm going to throw this mask away, and I'm going to show you the way you should do this. So hover over the path again, hold down the command key, and click to load this as a selection. But before you create a mask of it now, we need to soften this edge up slightly. This is going to be required for your homework, so this is something to seriously pay attention to, because otherwise I'm going to ding you for doing too strong or too sharp of a mask. So come up to the select menu, down to modify, down to feather. And in this feathering, it depends on the the resolution of your image. This is a pretty high-res image. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as 1 pixel. You could put in a pixel and a half. You could put in a half a pixel. It'll take fractions here. But I'm going to say single pixel here, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that. And then I'm going to go back and do the same thing. I'm going to apply this as a layer mask. And this is my edge right now. So I'm going to I'm going to do another snapshot of it. And actually, what I'm going to do here is I take that back. I'm going to go back to my original one really quick. It's hard to see this on just a transparent background. So I'm going to go back to this version, and I'm going to put it on white. So hang on just 1 second. And I'm going to do a snapshot of that. Get rid of body sharp. Click on this and call it body sharp. Say OK. Get rid of this. Again, the same process that I just did. On your path, Command click to load this as a selection. Up to the select menu, down to modify, down to feather, and I'm going to put in a single pixel feather on that. And then go back to my image and actually add a layer mask, and then snapshot that. Body soft. And then the reason I do this is that I can now go back and forth with these really quickly. So I'm going to go back to body sharp and body soft. Look at this edge right here. Body sharp, 2 cut out. Body soft, organic. So that's going to be what we do for building our selections here. Is everybody good on that part? Okay, so I've got this layer mask right now, and it's sitting right here in my channels palette. Your layer masks show up in here. I'm going to this is the soft version of it right now. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just drag the layer mask in my channels palette down to the plus, and it makes a copy of it, and I'm going to rename this copy Body Knockout. And say OK. And then I'm going to throw the mask away. I don't need it right now. I am. I'm telling you right now. Hang on. Did you add the layer mask? Yes. Then you've already got it. So the layer mask right here. Oh, right down here, the body knockout one. This is all I have. This is my whole channels palette right here. I just see the layer mask. If I pick on something else, the layer mask goes away. I don't have it. The only reason I see it here in the channels is because I've selected this layer. Do you have a layer with a layer mask on it? Then if the layer is active, that knockout has to be at the bottom of your channels palette. Go to your layer palette. Good. So this is, you've got it right here. You can now go to your channels palette, and it's sitting right here. Drag that down to the little plus, and then name that body knockout. Did this work for the rest of you who are actually doing this? All right, so all I did, I've got my layer right here. It's got the layer mask on it. The layer mask shows up in my channels. Again, it's a mask. All the masks, selections, everything gets saved in here. So I could load this as a selection. I could command click on the layer mask. It gives me the marching ants, and I could come up here and save it. Instead, the easiest way is simply to come over to the channels palette. It's like anything. If you drag a layer, if I drag a layer down to the little square with the plus in it, it makes a copy. Same thing here. I'm just going to drag the layer mask down to make a copy of it. It gives me a copy. I'm going to double click on it and just call it body. And then I'm going to throw my layer mask away because I don't want to use it right now. I need to complete it. I need to actually have it. I need the hair part as a part of all of this. And you can see this is what my mask looks like. And again, remember, if you have the eyeball on a channel, it shows up as red. That's what's going on in here. So I'm going to unclick this. But now I actually need to make the hair. I need to bring those two together. So to do the hair part of it, I'm going to do exactly what you guys have already done with the girl with the Medusa hair and then the whole Sunny thing. I'm going to start to look at channels. So I'm going to click on my red channel alone, and what I'm looking for again is contrast between the hair and the background. So if you haven't done this, no matter where you got with your pen tool, please do this part with me as well. So I'm going to look, I've just selected the red channel, I'm looking at it, how much contrast is between it and the background. Then I'm going to go to the green channel. Sorry. Sorry, something just went horribly wrong here. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm looking at the red channel right now, and I'm looking at the contrast between her hair and the background. Then I'm going to look at the green channel, and you can see that the background is darker. The edges of my hair, the inner part of her hair is also darker, but the outside of her hair, the edges of her hair are still really, really light. So this is more contrast. I don't worry about the inside part. I'm not worried about her face or anything there. I'm going to go to the blue channel. In the blue channel, the background actually just got lighter. So the green channel has the greatest amount of contrast, I think. Yeah, certainly better than the red. Yeah, and certainly better. So the green channel has got the greatest amount of contrast between her hair and the background. That's the only part I care about. So I'm going to duplicate the green channel. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to call it hair temp, just to let me know I'm temporarily using this to separate the hair. So then I'm going to zoom in on this and do exactly what we did with the girl, the Medusa hair girl, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to go to the color sampler tool. So the eyedropper down to the color sampler tool. And I'm going to put one sample right here on her hair and another sample right here on the background. So again, I need to make these, I need to make the white pure white, and I need to make the background, the darker area, pure black. That's what I'm going to go for here. So I've got two color points that are sitting right up here in my info palette. This point number 1 is the one that's on her hair. The point number 2 is the one that's on the background. I need these to give me readouts in RGB, not in K. So if you hover over the eyedropper of point number 1, and you click on it and get the drop-down menu, you can say, I want you to show me this in RGB color. There it is. It's getting 250, 250, 250. I need it to be 255, but I'm close. I'm going to then come over to the number 2 eyedropper and click on that drop-down menu and come down to RGB color. And I've got 50s in here. So working on this hair temp layer, I simply need to run levels on this to get the highlights to be white and the darker tones to be black. So Command L will bring up your levels dialog box. If you can't remember that, simply go to the image menu, adjustments, levels. You'll see Command L's right there next to it. Then watching the white point sliders right here, again, I need those 255s, that 250 to be 255. I'm simply going to click on this to make it active. I'm so close to 255, I'm just going to use my arrow keys. So I'm using my down arrow key, and I'm just tapping in until I get this thing to go to 255. I'm continually looking at this value right here. So again, continue to smack on it. And something is horribly wrong here because it's like no matter what I do, I can't get to that 254. Now, make sure that this is not, hang on one second. I may have something showing through in here. I don't. All right, so anyway, back to Command L, levels. Click on this to drop this down. Go to my arrow keys. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121 And this is clearly another problem that Photoshop is having, because I'm already down at 200 here. I know it can't be that bad. So I'm going to suffer through 253. Or I'm just going to take it for what it is. I'll do the... I'm just going to do the black point, the background instead. So I'm going to start to crank it up till I get close to 0 on that. I'm going to stop when I get close to 0, go to my arrow keys, and start to tap this in. And that gets to 0. I am going to go back to my white point and pull it back a little bit and get at least close to 250 something. Yeah. I'm going to zip back out and use your preview button to see, make sure that you're keeping the kind of feathery good quality of her hair. That part is. Again, all I care about is the edge of this. I don't care about anything else. I've got a couple of problems around that I'm going to fix right now. So I'm going to hit the B key to get a brush. I'm going to change it to an overlay brush so that it protects the white and doesn't overpaint that. I'm going to make it a medium hard brush and say okay to that. Black is not any of my colors, so I'm going to hit the D key to default my foreground and background to black and white, the X key to make black my foreground color, and then I'm simply going to come in here and start to paint out these edges parts right here just to get this to be a little bit darker around here. I don't really care about these areas that are far away from her. I can take care of that, but I got to get this area right in here. I got to get this area right in here. Now this area where there's this white thing that's actually in here, I may have to sacrifice hair that's in here. I'm going to find out right now. And if I have to sacrifice hair, I sacrifice the hair. You'll never know, because I've got all this other hair that's actually doing really well in here. So this part works for me. Now, I have a couple of hairs on here that are just floating in space. I don't like that. That looks like I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back to a normal brush and simply get rid of them. Now, do you know that there's hair missing there? No. So all of this part is working pretty good right here. I'm going to get down to this part. I need to actually fix her nose, so I'm going to go back to overlay. And again, sorry, undo that. Hit the X key to make white now my foreground color. Again, I need the figure to be white, the mask to be black. So I hit that once. I'm going to then just hit it again and again. I've got part of her mouth in here that I also need to fix. So I'm going back to just a normal brush. And get rid of that and that. And I can get rid of all of this part. My mask now, my path is going to go into this area. I'll be fine. Sorry. Woo. And then again, with the overlay brush, I can clean up just a few little things in here. I'm not really worried about the interior of her hair here at all. All of this, I'll just show you a quick trick in just a second. All of this stuff in here, I'm going to hit the L key to get a lasso tool, and I'm just going to select it all, staying away from my edges. And I'm going to fill it with white. Option delete, Command D to deselect. So now I've got basically her hair as an outline. Now I'm pretty sure I went through that awfully fast, and few of you are actually doing this with me, but if you are, good for you. If you're not, please watch the video, because this is the important part here. So I've actually got something here that I can use to, again, I can turn this into a selection now. How do I turn this into a selection? I don't know, try to hover over the icon like we've done every other image for the last 2 weeks. Hold down the Command key and click, and it loads it as a selection. Marching ants. I'm going to put a blank layer up here so that you can actually see what's happening here. These are the marching ants right here. If I hit the B key to get a brush, remember, if you have a selection, the selection controls where you do things. It controls where you paint. It controls where you clone. It controls all of those things. So I'm going to hit the B key to get a brush. I'm going to make it a completely hard brush. And this is just to show you what I've got going here, guys. That's all I'm trying to do here. I'm going to make my brush larger. And then I'm going to zoom in. I've got an active selection going here. Watch what happens. I'm going to start painting all the way over here. I'm clicking and painting, and as I come into here, the selection is controlling where my paint goes down. Now, you can see, because I didn't make that edge black and I didn't make this edge here black, whatever, that those are still showing up. So I'm going to fix that really quickly, but I just want to show, does this make sense? That a selection controls where I can paint. Guys, this is Photoshop 101. All you threes should be hanging your head if you don't know this. A selection restricts where you can paint. That's all I'm doing here. I made the selection. The white areas are fully selected. The black areas are not selected at all. So again, I'm going to throw this part away. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. I'm going to go back to this temporary right here. I'm going to get rid of this part just so that it doesn't drive me nuts. B key, it's a normal brush. I'm going to zoom into this, make it smaller. I'm going to just click through, Command Z, X key to get black, to get through that, to get through that. I'm going to go to a softer brush and to overlay, and I'm going to get rid of all this. And I've got enough room around it now that I can just treat this. So again, I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to Command click to load this as a selection, and then I'm going to go to my body, and you can see there is the active selection on my body. This is what I need to paint in. I need this area to be white. So X key to make white my foreground color, and then I'm simply going to, oh, still an overlay brush. Back to a normal brush. I'm simply going to paint the outline of this. The selection is controlling where my paint goes down. Here, watch this. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hide this, Command H, so you can't see the marching ants. Does this make sense what's going on here, guys? I'll do Command H to bring back the marching ants are always there. And then finally, I've got one problem area right here. Command D to deselect. Make sure it's a completely hard brush. And I'm just going to pop that right there. This is now my knockout mask. Command click to load this as a selection. Come over to my image right now, and I could use this as a layer mask to select it. Now you'll notice it's not turned on, so that's what it would ultimately look like. And you'll see that I've got fringing around here. This is spill. We'll talk about how to fix this later. But the more important issue is I wouldn't want to do this. I'm going to get rid of this. Instead, what I'm going to do here, that's what happened is I did a weird rotation on my image. So ignore the fact that my image is Dutched. But I'm going to load this as a selection. So body is selected. I'm going to then add a black and white adjustment layer. Now that turned the figure black and white, which doesn't really work for me. So I'm going to invert this so that my background is black and white. So now is my figure popping? Yes, it is. I'm going to go this a step better. I'm going to load this layer mask now, Command click, and then I'm simply going to add a curves layer on top of this and change its blending mode to multiply. Is that image popping now? Look at this, guys. Are you out of your minds? Look at this. Look at the quality of this edge. Do you see any mistake in this at all? Flawless. And look at the image. Look at how that little bit of work. You saw I did the mask itself. I did the pen work in 15 minutes tops. I did that in 5. Try doing this with the fucking select subject. You can't do it. Is this making sense, everyone? Questions about this? So it's the best of both worlds. You make a selection that you can using the pen tool, you do the rest using luminosity, and you can do stuff like this. And I'm telling you right now, look at the edge of this. Look at that. You go into an interview, do this in your own work. Where else do you want to go for all the compositing things that you think you want to do? If you can do this, you can do anything. I'll see you next week. Oh, I'll show you really quickly who has dropped. So if you don't see your name there, I don't have it.